Noh Do-yun stared at the loot box screen as a line of static tore across the display. The whole gate clear reward menu freezes for one hard second. Then a hidden button he accidentally clicked while checking his stats blinks in the corner. Stat duplication. And it starts multiplying on its own. One press becomes 10. 10 becomes 100. And the counter just keeps climbing. Do-yun jabs at the cancel prompt, but the system isn't listening anymore. The counter hits 1,000 and shows no sign of slowing down. His childhood friend, Seo Ha-eun, glances over from where she's packing up her healer's kit. She asks if something's wrong with the rewards terminal. Do-yun says it's probably just lag from the gate collapsing. But his heart is hammering because the counter just blew past 5,000. The D-rank dungeon they cleared was supposed to be a milk run. 20 goblins and a single shaman. Barely worth the bus fare out to the gate site. Ha-eun had joked on the way in that at least the pay would cover ramyeon for a week. Now the system is doing something neither of them has ever seen before. The duplication counter slams into 10,000 and the entire status window goes white. Do-yun feels every nerve in his body fire at once. It's not pain exactly, more like being dropped into a live current and coming out the other side remade. The sensation rolls through his chest and limbs, and then it's gone. His status screen rebuilds itself line by line in front of his eyes. Strength, agility, mana capacity, endurance. Every single stat now has a multiplier attached. 10,000x sits next to each value like it's always been there. Do-yun blinks, and the numbers are still glowing steady and real. He was an F-rank hunter 2 minutes ago. The kind of guy who got assigned to sewer grate duty and trash mob cleanup. Now his base strength alone reads high enough to make an S-rank gate boss sit up and pay attention. Ha-eun calls over again. She's got her bag on her shoulder and she's ready to head back to the surface. He closes the status window and tells her he's coming. But the gate hasn't fully collapsed yet. The dungeon core they destroyed should have triggered a full shutdown within 90 seconds. Instead, a secondary chamber door cracks open at the far end of the cavern. A goblin steps through, and it is not an E-rank specimen. This thing stands nearly 2 meters tall, with ritual scars carved across its chest and a jagged iron cleaver in one fist. Its eyes lock onto Ha-eun first, the healer, the softer target. Do-yun sees the threat register in its posture half a beat before it moves. Ha-eun doesn't even have time to raise a barrier. The C-rank goblin lunges across the cave floor with speed that would shred any normal F-rank. Do-yun's body reacts before his brain catches up. He steps into the charge and throws a straight right punch at the goblin's center mass. The impact sounds like a thunderclap in the enclosed space. The goblin's torso folds around his fist and keeps going. The whole creature comes apart into a spray of dust and bone fragments. Not blood, not a corpse. Dust. The cleaver clatters to the stone floor 2 seconds later, still spinning. Ha-eun's jaw is somewhere on the floor too. She asks what the hell just happened and whether that was really a hidden C-rank. Do-yun looks at his own fist like it belongs to someone else. There isn't even a scratch on his knuckles. He tells her he found a lucky item in the loot box, some kind of one-shot strength charm that activated on its own. It's a thin lie, but the evidence is right there in front of her. The goblin is a fine gray powder settling across the cave floor. Ha-eun stares at the remains and then back at him. She says she's never heard of an item that strong dropping from an E-rank gate. Do-yun shrugs and says the system does weird things sometimes. He's already pulling up his status screen again in his peripheral vision. That 10,000 times multiplier is not a charm, and it's not temporary. He can feel the power sitting under his skin like a second skeleton, solid and permanent and terrifying. Ha-eun accepts the explanation because she's known Do-yun since they were kids, and he's never given her a reason to doubt him. She says they should report the hidden monster to the association on the way out. Do-yun agrees and ushers her toward the exit portal before anything else crawls out of the walls. The walk back to the surface gives him just enough time to think. He's an F-rank hunter with stats that eclipse every S-rank on the continent. If the Hunter Association finds out, they'll want to know exactly how it happened. They'll run tests and audits and scans. And somewhere in that process, his secret won't survive. And then there's the Demon Lord's forces. Everyone knows they have spies inside the association's data networks. A stat anomaly this big would light up every monitoring system between here and the capital. Do-yun steps through the exit portal into the late afternoon sun and makes a decision. He's going to hide everything. His real rank stays buried until he understands the full scope of what the glitch did to him, until he knows who he can trust and who's already watching. Ha-eun is chatting about getting food on the way home, her usual post-gate ritual. He nods along and lets her pick the restaurant. But his mind is already 3 steps ahead, running scenarios and exit strategies. The gate site's cleanup crew waves them through the cordon, and nobody looks twice at two low-rank hunters coming back from a milk run. That's the first advantage. Nobody expects the F-rank guy to be anything other than an F-rank guy. Do-yun tucks his hands in his pockets and keeps his posture slouched and unremarkable. Ha-eun elbows him and asks why he's being so quiet. He says he's just tired from the goblin rush. She laughs and says he barely did anything. She was the one keeping the barriers up the whole time. He grins and lets her have the win. The diner they pick is a hole-in-the-wall place, 3 blocks from the association branch. Ha-eun orders tteokbokki, and Do-yun gets the same because his brain is too busy to read a menu. He talks about her plans to apply for a B-rank healer certification next month. Do-yun nods at the right moments, while internally cataloging every change in his status window. His mana regeneration alone is now fast enough to fuel a continuous barrier for hours. He could walk into an A-rank gate solo and clear it before lunch. And none of that matters if he gets caught before he's ready. Ha-eun waves a rice cake in front of his face and asks if he's even listening. He snaps back and says something about how she'll ace the certification for sure. She narrows her eyes but doesn't push. The sun sets outside the diner window, and the streetlights flicker on one by one. Do-yun walks Ha-eun back to her apartment building like he's done 100 times before. She pauses at the door and says, "He seems different tonight." He asks what she means. She says he's standing taller, and his eyes look sharper, and she can't quite put her finger on it. Do-yun tells her it's probably just the adrenaline from the hidden monster. Ha-eun nods slowly and says goodnight, and the door clicks shut behind her. Do-yun stands on the sidewalk for a long moment under the streetlight. Then, he turns toward his own apartment and starts walking. The route takes him past a burned-out gate site from last year's demon incursion. The crater is still cordoned off, and the memorial flowers are wilted, but someone left a fresh candle. Do-yun stops at the edge of the barrier and looks down into the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Demon Lord scouts are moving through gates and gathering information. Somewhere in the association servers, his name is on a list of F-rank hunters who cleared a gate today. And somewhere in the data, there might already be a flag, an energy spike, an anomaly, a glitch signature. He can't control any of that right now. What he can control is how he moves from this point forward. Do-yun pulls up his status screen one more time. The 10,000 times multiplier glows steady and undeniable. He's not F-rank anymore, and he can never go back. But he can pretend. He can stay invisible until the moment he's strong enough to not need to hide. Candle at the memorial flickers in a gust of wind, but it doesn't go out. Do-yun turns away from the crater and walks the last 3 blocks home. Tomorrow he'll queue for a re-evaluation and make sure the association sees exactly what he wants them to see. An F-rank hunter with nothing special about him. The hard part won't be the physical test. He can pull his punches and throttle his output. The hard part will be keeping his face straight when they tell him he's still at the bottom of the food chain. But he's got a reason to stay hidden now, and that reason is bigger than his pride. Demon Lord's people are out there, and they're hunting for exactly the kind of anomaly he just became. So Do-yun locks his apartment door and lies down on his bed and stares at the ceiling. The power is humming in his blood like a second heartbeat. He closes his eyes, and for the first time in years, he lets himself imagine what it would feel like to be the strongest hunter alive. Then he pushes the thought aside and gets some sleep. The game starts tomorrow, and he needs to be ready to play it perfectly. Ha-eun's words echo in his head as he drifts off. Something about how he seems different tonight. She's not wrong, and she's going to notice more as time goes on. The lie about the lucky item won't hold forever, but Do-yun will deal with that problem when it comes. For now, he's just an F-rank hunter who got lucky in a gate, and nobody needs to know anything else. His alarm is set for 6 in the morning, and the re-evaluation queue opens at 8. He's going to walk into that testing room and fail on purpose, and it's going to take every ounce of control he has. But that's the price of staying off the radar. The alternative is ending up in a lab somewhere, or with a demon targeting his family. So Do-yun will smile and nod, and let them stamp F-rank on his file. And then he'll walk out and start building the real plan. Understanding the glitch, finding allies, getting strong enough to take on whatever's coming. Sleep finally pulls him under just before midnight. Outside his window, the city hums with the usual night sound. Somewhere a gate alarm goes off in the distance, and the sirens fade toward the eastern district. Do-yun doesn't wake up. He's dreaming of goblins turning to dust and a counter spinning past 10,000. The morning sun slams through Do-yun's cheap blinds like it's personally offended by his life choices. His alarm screams at 6 a.m. sharp. Do-yun slaps it silent and swings his legs off the bed. Floor is cold under his feet, and his head is still foggy from dreams about spinning counters and goblin dust. He stands up, and the floorboards creak under him. Not because the building is old, because his body is denser now. 10,000 times denser in ways that physics is still trying to catch up with. He pulls on a plain gray hoodie and the cheapest joggers he owns. Not a single piece of Hunter-branded gear anywhere on him. He looks exactly like the F-rank nobody he's supposed to be. The mirror confirms it. Same tired face. Same unremarkable build. Except his eyes catch the light differently now, and he can see it even if nobody else can. Practices a slouch in front of the mirror until it looks natural. Then he practices the walk. Shuffle, shuffle, pause. Like a guy who's never thrown a punch that mattered. Satisfied, he grabs a protein bar and heads out the door. The Hunter Association Testing Center is a 10-minute bus ride from his apartment. He takes the bus. Not because he can't run faster than the bus now, because F-rank hunters take the bus, and F-rank hunters don't make flashy entrances. The testing center is a squat concrete building with a faded association logo on the front. It looks like a DMV had a baby with a military bunker. Do-yun pushes through the glass doors, and the smell of bleach and sweat hits him immediately. The waiting area is already half full. Mostly E and F ranks here for routine re-evaluations. A few D ranks looking nervous in the corner. Do-yun signs in at the front desk with a bored-looking clerk who doesn't even glance up. The clerk slides a numbered ticket across the counter. Number 47. Do-yun takes a seat in one of the plastic chairs and waits. His heart is beating perfectly steady. His breathing is controlled. A guy 2 seats over is tapping his foot like he's trying to dig a hole through the floor. Another hunter near the window keeps cracking his knuckles. Do-yun just sits there with his hands loose in his lap. The intercom crackles and calls number 44. A wiry guy with a receding hairline jumps up and heads through the double doors. 3 numbers away. Do-yun runs through the plan in his head one more time. The physical test measures grip strength, striking power, and speed. He needs to hit exactly the numbers he was hitting before the glitch, not a decimal point higher. The old Do-yun maxed out at a grip strength of 110 kilopascals. Striking power hovered around 800 newtons. Speed was his best stat at 9.2 meters per second. Those are his targets. He rehearses the feel of it in his mind. A punch that's just a punch. A sprint that's just a sprint. The intercom calls number 45. A woman with a scar across her cheekbone stands and walks through the doors. Do-yun watches her go and thinks about the candle at the memorial last night. Thinks about the Demon Lord scouts moving through gates somewhere. Thinks about Ha-eun's face when she told him he seemed different. Number 46 is called. A teenager with bright green hair bounces up and practically skips into the testing room. Do-yun exhales slowly. He can feel the power humming under his skin like a second pulse. 10,000 times everything. His mana alone could probably light up this whole building like a Christmas tree. But none of that matters if he can't keep it caged. The intercom crackles. Number 47. Do-yun stands up and doesn't let his hands shake. He walks through the double doors and into the testing chamber. The room is sterile white, with padded floors and sensor arrays mounted on every wall. A testing officer with a tablet stands near the console. The officer glances at his screen and reads off Do-yun's name. Noh Do-yun. F rank. Re-evaluation number 4. The officer sounds bored. Do-yun nods and steps up to the first station. The grip tester is a metal cylinder with pressure sensors embedded in the handle. He wraps his fingers around it and squeezes. Not too hard. Not too soft. He imagines the old Do-yun. The Do-yun who struggled to open pickle jars. The Do-yun who got winded running up 3 flights of stairs. The sensors hum. The display blinks. Then it settles. 112 kilopascals. The officer taps the number into his tablet without reacting. 2 points above his old max. That's fine. People fluctuate. Do-yun moves to the striking pad. It's a reinforced target mounted on a mechanical arm. He sets his feet and throws a straight right hand. The impact is solid, but not devastating. The pad rocks back, and the display reads 805 newtons. Close enough. The officer yawns. Speed test next. Do-yun lines up at the starting line and waits for the beep. The light flashes green, and he runs. He runs like a guy who's been training for years, but never quite breaking through. Arms pumping. Breath controlled. Feet slapping the track in a rhythm that's fast, but not supernatural. He crosses the finish line, and the timer stops at 9.4 meters per second. The officer taps the screen and nods. Standard F-rank results across the board. Do-yun steps off the track and waits for the mana evaluation. This is the tricky one. The mana reader is a spherical orb mounted on a pedestal. He places both hands on it and channels the barest trickle of power. The orb stays dim. No glow, no flicker. Just a faint pulse that registers as barely above baseline. The officer squints at the readout for a second. Then he shrugs and logs it. Do-yun pulls his hands away and lets out a breath. He did it. The officer hands him a printed slip with his results. F rank, confirmed. No anomalies detected. Do-yun takes the slip and turns toward the exit. That's when the orb flickers. Just once, a tiny flash of light that's gone before anyone can register it. The officer is already looking at his tablet again. Nobody else is even in the room, but the orb flickered. Do-yun freezes for half a heartbeat. Then he keeps walking like nothing happened. He pushes through the exit doors and into the hallway. His heart is pounding now. Not from the test, from the close call. Orb registered something for a split second. Just a spike of mana that slipped through his control. He needs to be more careful. He takes a deep breath and steadies himself. The hallway leads back to the waiting area and the front entrance. He's almost at the door when he hears a familiar voice behind him. Ha-eun's voice. She's standing near the vending machines with a cup of coffee in her hand. She didn't text him. She didn't tell him she'd be here. But here she is anyway. Because of course she is. Do-yun stops and turns to face her. She looks at him for a long moment without saying anything. Then she asks if he really thought she wouldn't show up. She says she knows his re-evaluation schedule by heart. He's been tracking it since the first time he failed the D-rank cutoff 3 years ago. Do-yun doesn't have a good answer for that. He just stands there with the F-rank slip in his hand and guilt starting to coil in his stomach. Ha-eun walks closer and peers at the slip. She reads the numbers, and her expression doesn't change. She says they're almost exactly the same as last time. She asks if he thinks that's normal. Do-yun tells her people plateau all the time. Ha-eun doesn't blink. She says he doesn't plateau. She says he's the most stubborn person she's ever met, and he's never stopped improving. He says something is different now, and she wants to know what it is. A couple of hunters in the waiting area glance over at them. Do-yun lowers his voice and says they should talk outside. Ha-eun doesn't argue. She follows him through the front doors and into the parking lot. The morning air is crisp, and the sun is fully up now. Do-yun leans against the concrete wall and crosses his arms. Ha-eun stands in front of him with her coffee cooling in her hand. She asks him to be honest with her. Not the hunter-to-hunter version of honest, the childhood friend version. The version where he doesn't lie about Lucky Charms and conveniently timed adrenaline rushes. Do-yun looks at her and the words almost come out. He almost tells her about the glitch. About the 10,000 times multiplier. About the goblin that turned to dust under his fist. About the demon lord and the scouts and the games he's going to have to play. But he can't. Not yet. Not because he doesn't trust her, because telling her puts her in danger. The less she knows, the safer she is. So he tells her the partial truth. He says he's been training differently. He says he figured out a new breathing technique that's helping his focus. He says the gate yesterday shook him up more than he wanted to admit. He says he's not hiding anything dangerous. He's just trying to get stronger. Ha-eun stares at him for a long time. She's known him since they were kids. She can always tell when he's lying. But this time she can't. Because every single thing he just said is technically true from a certain angle. She sighs and takes a sip of her coffee. She tells him she's not trying to interrogate him. She says he just seems different lately, and it worries her. His eyes are sharper. His posture is better. He moves like someone who's already seen the end of a fight before it starts. She says she's afraid he's getting himself into something he can't handle. Do-yun tells her he can handle it. Whatever it is, he's got it under control. Ha-eun looks at him for one more beat. Then she nods and lets it go. But her eyes say she hasn't let it go at all. She's just decided to wait for a better angle. Ha-eun finishes her coffee and tosses the cup in the trash. She tells him she's got a shift at the guild clinic in an hour. She says she'll see him later. Then she walks toward the bus stop without looking back. Do-yun watches her go and feels the weight of every half-truth he just told. But he can't fix it right now. He's got bigger problems. Because across town in a high-rise office, Jung Seo-jin is reviewing the sensor logs. The testing center feeds all data into the association's central database in real time. Seo-jin has a clearance level that lets him access the raw feeds. Not the cleaned-up reports that get filed to management. The raw sensor data with every microsecond of noise and fluctuation. He's been doing this for 6 years. He knows that most anomalies in testing data are just calibration errors. A sensor drifts. A power coupling fluctuates. Air conditioner kicks on and spikes the electrical grid for half a cycle. But sometimes the anomalies aren't errors. Sometimes they're hunters suppressing their real output. Seo-jin scrolls through the morning's evaluations. Most of them are boring. Predictable numbers from predictable hunters. Then he gets to Noh Do-yun's file. F rank. 4 re-evaluations. No improvement in 3 years. Seo-jin almost skips past it. But something catches his eye. A micro spike in the mana orb data. It lasts less than 1/3 of a second. It peaks at a value that doesn't match an F rank hunter at all. It peaks at something closer to A rank. Seo-jin leans forward in his chair and replays the data. The spike is there. Clean. Definite. And then it's gone. Suppressed so fast that any standard filter would have smoothed it out of existence. But Seo-jin doesn't use standard filters. He built his own analysis suite specifically to catch things like this. He runs a comparison against the physical test results. Grip strength, striking power, speed, all consistent with the hunter's historical range. All consistent with an F rank who peaked 3 years ago. There is nothing wrong with any of the physical numbers, except that they're too consistent for a hunter who's been training for 3 years with no improvement. Most hunters fluctuate by a few percent in either direction. Noh Do-yun's numbers are almost identical to his last evaluation, as if he was aiming for them. Seo-jin pulls up Do-yun's full file. 24 years old, awakened 5 years ago. No special abilities on record, no notable gate achievements. A childhood friend named Seo Ha-eun, who works as a healer. No guild affiliation. No political connections. Just an unremarkable F rank with unremarkable stats and an unremarkable life. Except for that mana spike. Seo-jin closes the file and leans back in his chair. He's seen hunters hide their real ranks before. Usually, it's the other direction. A B rank who faked credentials to look like an S rank. A hunter who padded their achievements to get into a better guild. But hiding a high rank and pretending to be an F? That's new. That's interesting. And interesting things in the Hunter Association usually mean trouble. Seo-jin pulls out his personal tablet and starts building a surveillance profile. Do-yun's next scheduled gate entry is in 3 days. Routine C rank clear with a pickup group. Standard pay, standard risk. The perfect cover for a hunter who's trying not to draw attention. Seo-jin decides he'll be there. Not in the gate, outside it. Watching the energy readings from a mobile sensor rig he designed for field surveillance. If Do-yun really is hiding something, a live gate is where he'll slip. The chaos of combat, the pressure of real danger. Seo-jin knows from experience that nobody can maintain a perfect facade when their life is on the line. He saves the profile and sets an alert for Do-yun's next gate activation. Then he leans back and stares at the ceiling. Somewhere out there is a hunter who can spike to A rank mana levels and suppress it in less than a second. An F rank with the control of a seasoned pro. And Seo-jin is going to find out exactly what that hunter is hiding. Do-yun walks home from the testing center with the F rank slip folded in his pocket. The sun is high now, and the streets are filling with people. Regular people who don't know about gates or demons or glitches that can multiply your stats past the point of logic. He envies them for about 3 seconds. Then he lets it go. Envy is a luxury he can't afford. He gets back to his apartment and locks the door behind him. The place is small and quiet, and exactly the same as when he left it. He pulls up his status screen one more time. The 10,000 times multiplier is still there, glowing steady and undeniable. He closes the screen and sits on the edge of his bed. The evaluation went as planned. The lie to Ha-eun held for now. But Seo-jin is out there somewhere. And Do-yun has no idea that the analyst already has his name on a watch list. He thinks he's got a few more weeks of quiet before anyone starts asking real questions. He's wrong about that. The game hasn't even started yet, and there's already a player moving pieces on the board that Do-yun can't see. Outside his window, a city bus rumbles past. A gate alarm goes off somewhere in the northern district. The sirens fade into the distance like they always do. Do-yun lies back on his bed and stares at the ceiling. His heart is beating steady, and his power is humming in his blood. He's got 3 days until his next gate. 3 days to prepare for whatever comes next. 3 days before Jung Seo-jin follows him into the shadows and the real game begins. 3 days later, a red gate tears open in the middle of the city center. Not a routine C rank. Not a standard raid. This is an unanticipated S rank portal. Jagged and bleeding black lightning into the sky. Sirens wail across every district. Hunter Association scrambles its top-tier response. 4 S-rank hunters are already on scene within minutes. Eun-woo, a blade dancer with reflexes no camera can catch. Kang Dae, a tank who's survived 17 gate collapses. Yura, a fire mage whose flames can melt demon bone. And Tae-min, the team leader who's cleared more red gates than anyone alive. They enter together, shields up, weapons humming. Inside, the gate world is a wasteland of obsidian spires and rivers of molten iron. Demons pour out of fissures in the rock. Hundreds of them. Not goblins, not lesser fiends. High-tier abominations with carapace armor and claws that shred steel. The S-ranks fight hard, but the numbers are worse than any pre-entry scan predicted. Kang Dae's barrier cracks under the 10th simultaneous impact. Yura burns a path through the horde, but for every demon she incinerates, 3 more take its place. Eun-woo cuts down a dozen in a blur of steel, then staggers as a toxin-laced tail catches her shoulder. Tae-min orders a tactical retreat, but the gate's exit is already blocked. A second wave of demons has circled behind them. They're pinned, and then the ground shakes. Voice rumbles from the deepest fissure, the demon general. It steps into the light, 15 feet tall, wreathed in smoke and obsidian plate armor. 4 arms, each holding a different weapon. A sword, an axe, a flail, and a spear tipped with something that drips pure darkness. Taemin's status screen flashes red. The general's mana output clocks in at S+. They're outmatched. That's when our boy makes his move. Do-yun stands on the other side of the gate entrance, hood pulled low, a plain cloth mask over his face. Nobody knows he's there. Nobody except Seo-jin, who's 100 meters away behind a concrete barrier, watching a mobile sensor rig. Do-yun times the chaos perfectly. The moment the S-ranks are all focused on the demon general, he slips into the gate. 1 step from the normal world to hell. He moves fast. 10,000 times speed means the air itself warps around him. He's a blur, even to the S-ranks. A demon lunges at him on the way in. Do-yun flicks it with 1 finger. The creature explodes into mist. Tae-min sees a shape blitz past. He has no idea what it is. Eun-woo tries to track it, but her eyes can't keep up. Do-yun arrives in front of the demon general. The monster roars. All 4 weapons swinging down in a coordinated strike that would level a building. Do-yun doesn't dodge. He catches the sword arm, snaps it backward at the elbow. The general howls. Before the other 3 weapons can land, Do-yun pivots and drives his fist into the creature's chest. Not a punch, a demolition. The obsidian armor doesn't crack. It vaporizes. His fist goes through the general's torso like it's wet paper. The demon's HP bar, which should have been a nightmare for a full raid team, drops to 0 in 1 frame. The boss topples, hits the ground as a heap of ash and shattered plate. The entire horde freezes. Tae-min stares. Kangdae's cracked barrier flickers out because the attack he was bracing for never comes. Yura's flames gutter. She's seen demon lords fall before, but not like that. Not in a single hit. Do-yun doesn't say a word. He turns, grabs the collapsed gate exit with both hands, and physically pushes the spatial tear back open. That's not supposed to be possible. A gate's exit closes when the boss dies. But Do-yun's 10,000 times mana saturation lets him override the dimensional lock for a few seconds. He holds the doorway wide. The trapped S-ranks don't need a second invitation. Tae-min shouts for everyone to move. Eun-woo, still woozy from the toxin, gets hauled through by Kangdae. Yura blasts a final fire wave to cover their retreat. Then Do-yun steps through last, and before anyone can see his face clearly, he pumps his speed again. He's a streak of light across the gate plaza. Gone. The S-ranks stumble out into the city sunlight, gasping, covered in demon ichor. Tae-min scans the crowd. The mysterious hunter has vanished. Just a hood and a blur. Seo-jin from his hidden spot catches 2 seconds of the streak. His mobile sensor rig spikes off the charts, an energy signature that doesn't match any registered hunter in the database. He runs a filter, trying to grab a visual. The street cameras are too slow. But the thermal overlay on his tablet grabs a single frame. A shape. A jawline. Partial facial profile. It's not enough for a positive ID, but it's something. Seo-jin's heart races. That was an S+ level threat, eliminated in 1 hit. By a hunter with no guild badge. No rank on file. Nothing. He zooms in on the thermal image. The jaw structure is young, male, 20-something. Seo-jin's mind jumps to the file he was just building. Noh Do-yun. F rank. A mana spike that shouldn't exist. And now a mysterious savior who just saved 4 of the association's best hunters from a red gate that should have been a death sentence. He doesn't have proof. Not yet. But the pieces are lining up. Seo-jin packs up his rig and starts moving toward the gate plaza. Aftermath is chaos. Medics swarm the S-ranks. Reporters trample each other for a shot. Tae-min is giving a statement to the association's crisis team, describing the unknown hunter. A hooded figure. Unimaginable strength. He saved them all. The association immediately issues a provisional S-rank designation for the unknown. They don't even have a name, just a code. Phantom. And they want him found. Seo-jin slips past the perimeter with his analyst credentials. He scans the crowd, looking for anyone who doesn't belong. No hooded figures. No overtly suspicious hunters. But he knows the guy probably changed clothes by now. Or just walked away like he belonged. Because with that level of speed, He could have been back in civilian clothes before the S ranks even finished their first breath of fresh air. Do-yun, meanwhile, is already 3 blocks away, leaning against a bakery wall, eating a pastry he bought 2 minutes ago. His hoodie is gone. The cloth mask is in a dumpster. His face is calm. His heart rate is a steady 60 beats per minute. He chews the pastry slowly. A few people run past, heading toward the sirens. But nobody looks at him twice. Just another guy in a jacket, having a snack. 3 hours later, the association holds a press conference. The Phantom is officially an unlicensed S-rank hunter, wanted for questioning. Not for a crime yet, but for operating without registration, which technically is a violation of the Hunter Accords. Seo-jin watches the conference from his office, drumming his fingers on his desk. He's got a thermal image, a jawline, and a gut instinct. And he's got a scheduled gate entry in 3 days for a certain F-rank nobody. He pulls up Do-yun's file again. He scans the historical data, looking for anything he missed. A gym membership? No. A secondary residence? No. But then he notices a small detail. Do-yun's listed emergency contact is Seo Ha-eun. Same last name as him, but not family. Childhood friend. He digs deeper. Ha-eun is a healer, low C rank, works at St. Luke's Hunter Medical Center, has a spotless record. Seo-jin leans back. If Do-yun is hiding something, the friend probably knows. Or she should know. He decides to pay her a visit. Not to confront, to observe. The next morning, Seo-jin arrives at the medical center wearing civilian clothes and a visitor's badge. He claims he's a distant relative of one of the patients. The receptionist waves him through. He finds Ha-eun in the recovery ward, checking vitals on a hunter who got clawed in a D-rank gate. Seo-jin lingers near the door, pretending to read a pamphlet. He watches her. She's gentle, careful, exactly the kind of person a powerful hunter would want to protect. And if Do-yun is powerful, hiding it from her would be a constant strain. Because she's a healer, she'd notice inconsistencies. He wonders if she already has. Ha-eun finishes her rounds and heads to the break room. Seo-jin follows at a distance, then decides not to push his luck. He leaves the medical center and walks back to his car. He's not going to tip his hand. Not yet. But the noose is tightening. Do-yun is at home, reading a manhwa on his phone. His legs are propped up on a stool. He's got a bag of chips next to him. The news is playing in the background, still talking about the Phantom. He ignores it. He knows the association is looking for him. He doesn't care. They don't have his face. They don't have his mana signature. All they have is a ghost. And a ghost can't be arrested. But Seo-jin isn't the association. Seo-jin is patient. And Seo-jin is already building a profile that, piece by piece, is pointing at one name. Do-yun's phone buzzes. It's Ha-eun. She's asking if he's home. He texts back, "Yeah, come over." 20 minutes later, she's at his door. She looks around his apartment like she's searching for something. He asks her what's wrong. She says nothing, but she's a terrible liar. He sees the tension in her shoulders, the way she keeps glancing at the news coverage of the Red Gate. He knows her well enough to read the question she's not asking. He offers her some chips. She doesn't take them. Instead, she says the strangest thing happened today. Someone from the association visited the medical center. Not official business. Just a guy with a visitor's badge who spent too long in the recovery ward staring at her. She says the receptionist described him after. Dark hair, glasses, thin build, always carrying a tablet. Do-yun's chewing slows. That's Seo-jin. He knows it. Ha-eun asks if he's in trouble. Do-yun tells her he's not. He keeps his voice casual, but inside, the plan is shifting. Seo-jin just went from a curious analyst to an active threat. And Do-yun has 3 days before his next gate. 3 days to figure out how to keep his secret from a man who's already 3 steps ahead. Outside, the sun sets on a city still buzzing about the Phantom. And somewhere in the Hunter Association's data center, a new file is being compiled. Title: Noh Do-yun. Status: under active surveillance. Do-yun's quiet life as an F-rank is about to get very loud. 2 days after the Red Gate incident, a black sedan rolls up to the Hunter Association building. The man who steps out is compact, stone-faced, and wearing a pressed gray suit. His name is Koo Min-seok, Inspector Koo Min-seok. Doesn't work for the Seoul branch. He works for the International Hunter Oversight Committee, and he's here because a Red Gate doesn't just get soloed by a ghost. That kind of power leaves a trail, even if the trail is just a jawline and a thermal blur. Koo walks through the front doors like he owns the place. The receptionist barely gets out a greeting before he flashes his credentials. She points him toward the director's office. He doesn't wait for the elevator. He takes the stairs, 2 at a time. Inside the director's office, Koo drops a tablet on the desk. On screen is every scrap of data from the Red Gate. Thermal readings, mana spike graphs, eyewitness statements from the 4 S ranks, and one blurry silhouette caught by a traffic camera 3 blocks from the gate. The director stares at it for a long moment. Koo says the Phantom is an unregistered S rank. Probably someone who never tested above F. Someone who slipped through the cracks. He wants a full audit. Every F rank in the Soul Registry. New biometric scans, blood samples, mana resonance mapping. The director asks if that's really necessary. Koo tells him the last time a hunter hid this kind of power, a city disappeared. That ends the discussion. The order goes out within the hour. Every F-rank hunter in Seoul receives a mandatory summons. Re-evaluation. No exceptions. Do-yun gets the notification on his phone. He's sitting at his kitchen table, eating instant ramen. The text is short and cold. Report to the association branch at 900 tomorrow for biometric screening. He reads it twice. Then he slurps another mouthful of noodles. No panic. No racing heart. Just the quiet click of his brain shifting gears. He knows who's behind this. Not Seo-jin, someone higher up. Someone with enough authority to demand every F rank in the city drop what they're doing and show up. He sets his chopsticks down and stares at the wall. The biometric screen will measure mana at a deeper level than the standard re-evaluation. Orb test is surface level. The biometric scan reads your core directly, and his core is glowing with 10,000 times the mana of a normal F rank. If he walks into that room, the game is over. He can't fake a mana core scan, but he can't skip it either. A no-show would trigger an immediate warrant, and a warrant brings hunters with actual authority to detain him, which means a fight, which means exposure anyway. So he needs a third option, something that gets him out of the test without looking like he's running. He scrolls through his phone, scanning the hunter threat boards, and right there, on the public alert feed, is his answer. A C-rank gate near the Han River has been flagged for a potential breach. Seismic readings are spiking. Monster activity is trending upward. The association hasn't dispatched a raid team yet. Do-yun smiles. It's the same gate he's scheduled to enter in 2 days. But the association doesn't know that. And if an alarm goes off right now, every available hunter in the area gets pulled into the response, including one very persistent inspector who pulls up a burner app and crafts a short, anonymous tip. The wording is careful, urgent, but just vague enough to sound like a panicked civilian who doesn't know protocol. He hits send. Then he finishes his ramen. The alarm hits the association servers at 700 the next morning. Loud. Red. Priority override. A C-rank gate near the river is registering a full breach event. Monsters are pouring out. Civilian casualties are unconfirmed but likely. The alert blares through every speaker in the building. Hunters scramble. Staffers grab gear. And Inspector Koo Min-seuk, who is setting up his biometric equipment in the testing wing, gets pulled into the response. Because he's S-rank. And an S-rank doesn't sit in a lab while a gate breaches. Not if he wants to keep his credentials. He curses under his breath and grabs his coat. The biometric testing is postponed. Indefinitely. Do-yun watches the chaos from a coffee shop across the street. He's wearing an oversized hoodie. His hair is messy. He looks like a kid skipping class. A dozen hunters rush out of the association building. Koo Min-seuk is among them. His face is tight. Focused. He's already barking orders into a radio. Do-yun takes a sip of his latte. Then he stands up, stretches, and heads toward the same gate. Because he's still scheduled for this raid. And if the inspector is going to be there anyway, he might as well give the guy a show. The gate site is chaos. A jagged blue rift hangs 20 feet off the ground, crackling with unstable mana. Goblins are spilling out in waves, mostly D-rank. Few C-rank hobgoblins mixed in. Nothing the assembled hunters can't handle, but there are a lot of them. And the breach alarm was false. Do-yun knows that because he's the one who sent it. The gate isn't actually collapsing. It's just more active than the sensors predicted. But by the time anyone figures that out, the raid will be over. And the inspector will have seen exactly what Do-yun wants him to see. Our boy signs in at the staging tent. The coordinator gives him a quick nod. F rank, assigned to support. Stay in the back. Don't engage anything above D rank. Do-yun nods like a good little rookie and falls in line. The raid team pushes through the gate. 20 hunters total, mostly C ranks, a handful of B ranks, one S rank inspector who wasn't supposed to be here. Koo Min-seuk takes point immediately. His weapon is a pair of black gauntlets that hum with stored kinetic energy. He moves like a man who's done this 1,000 times. Goblins rush him. He doesn't even slow down. Each punch sends a shockwave through the air. Goblins fold. Goblins fly. Goblins don't get back up. It's honestly kind of impressive, but Do-yun isn't watching the inspector. He's watching the terrain. The gate interior is a rocky canyon with narrow passages and crumbling cliffs, perfect for an F rank who needs to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Our boy hangs at the back of the formation. He lets other hunters take the kills. He lets the inspector do the heavy lifting. And then he sees his moment. A hobgoblin breaks through the left flank. It's bigger than the others. Meaner. It swings a rusted axe at a C-rank hunter who's already wounded. The hunter stumbles. The axe comes down, and Do-yun is there, not fast enough to be suspicious, not slow enough to be useless, just fast enough to throw himself into the hobgoblin and knock it off balance. The axe misses the wounded hunter by inches. Do-yun lands awkwardly on his shoulder. Looks clumsy. Looks desperate. The hobgoblin turns on him, snarling. Do-yun scrambles backward like he's terrified, which is honestly great acting, given he could turn this thing into mist with a flick of his wrist. The hobgoblin lunges. Do-yun throws a wild punch. It connects with the monster's jaw. And the hobgoblin drops. Not because Do-yun used his real strength, because he aimed for a weak point the other hunters didn't see. A fracture in the jawbone from an earlier hit. The hobgoblin was already dazed. Do-yun just gave it the tap that finished the job. From the outside, it looks like dumb luck. The wounded hunter thanks him, gasping. Do-yun waves it off. He says it was nothing, just a lucky shot. Koo Min-seok notices. Of course he notices. Because an F rank just dropped a hobgoblin with one punch, lucky or not. The inspector's eyes linger on Do-yun for a beat too long. Then, a fresh wave of goblins surges in, and Koo has to turn his attention back to the fight. But the seed is planted. Do-yun knows it, and that's exactly what he wants. The raid wraps up in under an hour. 23 goblins eliminated. 4 hobgoblins. 1 C-rank gate boss that Koo Min-seok pummels into the dirt without breaking a sweat. No hunter casualties. The coordinator logs the gate as cleared. And Do-yun walks out with the rest of the team like just another F rank who got lucky. But Koo Min-seok is waiting near the debrief tent. He flags Do-yun down. His tone is casual. Too casual. He asks about the hobgoblin. Says it was a clean hit. Wants to know if Do-yun has combat training. Do-yun shrugs. He says he's been doing gates for 5 years. You pick things up. Koo nods slowly. Then he asks about the Red Gate incident. The one 2 days ago. The one with the phantom. Do-yun's expression doesn't flicker. He says he was at home, eating chips, watching the news like everyone else. Koo studies him for a long moment. Then he thanks Do-yun for his time and walks away. But our boy catches the look in his eyes. The inspector isn't satisfied. He's just smart enough not to tip his hand. Later that afternoon, Koo Min-seok files his report. The biometric testing is postponed until further notice. No F-rank anomalies detected during the raid. But he appends a personal note. One subject, Noh Do-yun, displayed unnatural calm under pressure. Recommended for further observation. No actionable evidence, just a gut feeling. And Koo Min-seok has been doing this job long enough to trust his gut. The report lands on Jung So-jin's tablet before it even hits the director's desk. Because Seo-jin has alerts set up for any file tagged with Do-yun's name, he reads the note twice. Unnatural calm. It's a polite way of saying the guy didn't flinch when a hobgoblin tried to take his head off. Seo-jin leans back in his chair. He's got thermal data, a jawline, a friend who's a healer, and now an inspector's hunch. The pieces are lining up. But he still doesn't have proof. He picks up his phone and calls Koo Min-seok directly. The inspector picks up on the second ring. Seo-jin doesn't waste time with small talk. He says he thinks the phantom is an F rank. Specifically, the F rank Koo flagged in his report. There's a long silence on the other end. And Koo asks what evidence he has. Seo-jin tells him about the sensor data. The energy spike during the re-evaluation. The thermal signature from the Red Gate that matches Do-yun's build. The fact that his childhood friend is a healer who showed up at the Red Gate site the next day to treat the wounded. None of it is proof, but all of it is a pattern. Koo listens without interrupting. When Seo-jin finishes, the inspector exhales slowly. He says if Do-yun really is the phantom, they have a problem. Because a hunter who can pretend to be F rank after soloing a demon general is either a genius or a threat. Or both. Seo-jin agrees. They agree to meet in person, off the books, somewhere the association can't monitor. Because if Do-yun is hiding something, the association's own systems might already be compromised. Or worse, someone inside the association might already know, and is choosing not to act. Koo Min-seok hangs up. He stares at his report. Then he pulls up Do-yun's full file. Date of birth. Awakening record. Gate history. Emergency contact. So Ha-un. 5 years of F-rank service. No commendations. No violations. Clean as a whistle. Too clean. In his experience, the cleanest files belong to the people with the most to hide. He closes the file and locks his tablet. Then he sends Seo-jin a single message. Tomorrow night. Warehouse district. Come alone. The message deletes itself 30 seconds after it's read. Do-yun, meanwhile, is back in his apartment. He's got a bag of chips, a manhwa on his phone, and a brand new problem. Because he saw the way Koo looked at him, and he knows that look. It's the look of a hunter who's caught a scent. The inspector isn't like Seo-jin. Seo-jin is patient, calculating. He'll build a case for months before he moves. Koo Min-suk is a predator. If he decides Do-yun is the phantom, he won't wait for proof. He'll test him directly, push him until he slips. And Do-yun can't afford to slip. Not with Ha-un still in the dark. Not with the Demon Lord's forces still hunting for anomalies. Not with 3 days of quiet before his next scheduled gate. He sets his phone down, stares at the ceiling. The noose is tightening. But here's the thing about our boy. He's been underestimated his whole life. And every single time, he's found a way to slip out. This time won't be any different. He just needs to stay one step ahead of the inspector. One step ahead of the analyst. One step ahead of a world that's starting to notice the quiet F-rank who punches through demon generals. Outside, the city hums with the sound of sirens and distant gate alarms. And somewhere in the warehouse district, 2 men are about to share notes on a ghost. Do-yun's secret is still safe. But the walls are getting closer. The people closing in aren't monsters. They're hunters. Smart ones. Patient ones. Ones who don't stop until the truth is on a table in front of them. Guess what? They're about to compare everything they know. He doesn't wait for tomorrow. Do-yun's been sitting in his apartment for exactly 40 minutes. The chips are gone. The manhwa's still open on his phone, but he hasn't read a single panel. Because he knows how this ends if he lets those two compare notes. Seo-jin is sharp enough to connect the dots. Koo Min-suk is relentless enough to chase the lead until something breaks. And when they meet tomorrow night, the noose tightens. So our boy makes a decision. He pulls up Seo-jin's contact info. It took him about 15 minutes to dig it out of the association's public directory. Another 10 to trace the personal number from a cached staff roster. Perks of having 10,000 times the processing speed you used to have. Your brain just works faster. He sends a single message. I know you're meeting Koo. Don't. Let's talk first. Alley behind Guro Station. 1 hour. Then he grabs his jacket and walks out the door. The alley behind Guro Station smells like old cooking oil and damp concrete. A single flickering streetlight buzzes overhead. Do-yun leans against the wall with his hands in his pockets. He's not hiding his posture tonight. Standing straight, shoulders back. The slouch is gone. Because if Seo-jin already knows, there's no point pretending. Footsteps echo at the mouth of the alley. Jung So-jin steps into the light. Tablet in one hand. Dark hair slightly windswept, glasses reflecting the orange streetlight. He doesn't look surprised. He looks like a man who expected this call. Seo-jin stops about 10 feet away. He says he wondered how long it'd take before Do-yun reached out. Do-yun asks if he told Koo about this meeting. Seo-jin says no. He wanted to hear what Do-yun had to say first. Smart move. Do-yun pushes off the wall. He says Seo-jin's been digging into things he shouldn't. Seo-jin doesn't flinch. He says a hunter capable of soloing a demon general shouldn't be hiding in F-rank queues. And he's right. Do-yun knows he's right. But he also knows what happens if the association finds out. They don't just give you a new badge and a pay raise. They dissect you. They study you. They lock you in a lab and ask questions for the rest of your life. Do-yun asks what Seo-jin wants. Seo-jin says he wants the truth. But he also knows Do-yun won't give it to him in an alley. So he makes a counteroffer. He pulls up his tablet and taps the screen. A map appears. A location deep in the industrial district. Seo-jin says there's a virtual simulation room there. Off the books. Used by private guilds for black site training. No association monitoring. No records. He says if Do-yun is really the phantom, he wants to see it. Not on a sensor log. Not on a blurry traffic camera still. Right in front of him. Do-yun studies Seo-jin's face. The guy isn't bluffing. He's genuinely curious. And underneath that, there's something else. Respect. Like he's asking for a demonstration, not a confession. Do-yun asks what happens if he says no. Seo-jin says he walks away and meets Koo tomorrow night. And between the two of them, They'll figure it out eventually. But if Do-yun shows him the truth, Seo-jin promises to hear him out. The whole story. Before anyone else gets involved. Do-yun weighs his options. He could run. He could deny everything. He could let the inspector and the analyst close in and hope they trip over their own assumptions. But that's not how you stay ahead. That's how you get cornered. He nods once. 1 hour. Simulation room. No tricks. Seo-jin smiles, just a little. He says he expected Do-yun to be harder to convince. Do-yun says he's full of surprises. The simulation room is buried under an old textile factory, the kind of place that still smells like machine oil and dust, even after they've ripped out all the equipment. Seo-jin leads the way down a flight of concrete stairs. At the bottom, a steel door with a biometric scanner. He presses his thumb to the pad. The door hisses open. Inside, the room is a cube of white panels. 40 feet by 40 feet. Ceiling rigged with holographic projectors and mana emitters. A simulation chamber, kind that can generate terrain, weather, even artificial enemies. Seo-jin walks to the center of the room. He taps his tablet, and the walls flicker. The simulation begins constructing itself around them. Crates, low walls, and scaffolding materialize out of light. A mock battlefield. Seo-jin says the rules are simple. It's a duel. No lethal force. First to land a clean hit wins. But there's a catch. He gestures at the terrain. The simulation is rigged with traps, pressure plates, tripwires, hidden mana mines. Seo-jin designed the layout himself. He knows where every trap is. Do-yun doesn't. Seo-jin says he wants to see how Do-yun handles a fight where raw power isn't enough, where strategy and awareness matter more than strength. Do-yun cracks his neck. He says he's always been more of a brawler than a chess player, but he'll manage. Seo-jin's smile sharpens. He says he's counting on it. The simulation chimes. A countdown begins. Seo-jin vanishes behind a stack of crates. Do-yun doesn't move. He just stands in the center of the arena with his hands still in his pockets. The first trap triggers almost immediately. A mana mine detonates 3 feet to his left. A concussive blast designed to disorient. Do-yun leans 2 inches to the right. The shockwave passes him completely. He didn't even look. He just felt the mana spike and adjusted. Seo-jin's voice echoes from somewhere behind the scaffolding. He says that was the easiest trap in the room. Do-yun says he's not worried. He starts walking. Not running. Walking. Because at 10,000 times his old speed, even a stroll covers ground faster than most hunters can sprint. A pressure plate clicks under his shoe. He steps off it before the mechanism can fully engage. The spike trap fires into empty air. Another mana mine activates above him. He ducks under it mid-stride. Doesn't even break his pace. Seo-jin watches from a vantage point on the scaffolding. His expression is hard to read. He's not panicking. He's cataloging. Every dodge. Every near miss. Every impossible reaction time. Do-yun reaches the center of the arena, still untouched. He asks if Seo-jin has anything better. Seo-jin taps his tablet. The simulation shifts. The floor breaks apart into floating platforms. Gaps open beneath Do-yun's feet. Lava simulant glows in the chasms. Tripwires stretch between the platforms at ankle height. Mana emitters on the ceiling begin firing stun bolts in randomized patterns. Not traps anymore, a full assault. Do-yun grins. Now it's getting fun. He jumps. The first platform tilts under his weight. He's already on the second one before the motion finishes. The third platform is rigged with a contact trigger. He touches it with one toe and launches off before the trap fires. The stun bolts rain down in patterns too fast for a normal hunter to track. Do-yun weaves through them like he's walking through a light drizzle. Left, right, duck, pivot. None of them touch him. Seo-jin calls out that Do-yun's speed is absurd. Do-yun says it's not just speed, it's processing. His brain is moving as fast as his body. He sees the bolt. He calculates the trajectory. He moves. All in the time it takes a normal person to blink. He lands on the highest platform. The final trap activates. Not a mine, not a bolt. The platform itself is a cage. Energy bars snap into place around him. A containment field designed to hold S-rank monsters. Seo-jin designed it specifically for this moment. The final test. Do-yun puts his hand on the energy bar. It hums against his palm. Solid mana, designed to absorb kinetic force. Punching it won't work. Raw strength won't work. But our boy's been thinking about this since the first trap fired. He doesn't punch. He vibrates. His hand blurs. At 10,000 times his base speed, he can oscillate his palm faster than the containment field can recalibrate. The energy bars destabilize, flicker, and shatter. Do-yun steps out of the cage like he's stepping off an elevator. Seo-jin is standing on the platform below him, tablet lowered, glasses slightly askew. He's not scared. He's impressed. He says Do-yun just broke a containment field rated for A-rank magical beasts. Do-yun hops down and lands a few feet away. He asks if Seo-jin has seen enough. Seo-jin is quiet for a moment. Then he says he has one more question. Do-yun waits. Seo-jin asks what Do-yun is so afraid of. Not the association. Not the Demon Lord's forces. Something deeper. Because a guy with this kind of power doesn't hide for 5 years unless he's terrified of what happens if he stops hiding. Do-yun's expression flickers, just for a second. He says Seo-jin is too perceptive for his own good. Then he tells him the truth. Not all of it, but enough. He says the power he has isn't natural. It's a glitch, a one-time error in the system. He didn't earn it. He didn't train for it. He pressed a button, and the universe accidentally multiplied him by 10,000. And if the wrong people find out, they won't just study him. They'll try to replicate it. They'll tear the system apart looking for another glitch. They'll break things that can't be fixed. And the Demon Lord's forces are already hunting for anomalies like him. If they confirm he exists, they won't stop. They'll come for him and everyone he cares about. Seo-jin absorbs all of this without interrupting. When Do-yun finishes, Seo-jin says he understands. He says Do-yun isn't hiding because he's weak. He's hiding because he's trying to protect people. Not just himself. Everyone who'd get caught in the crossfire. Do-yun nods. Seo-jin tucks his tablet under his arm. He says he'll keep Do-yun's secret. He has conditions. Do-yun asks what kind. Seo-jin says if a threat comes that Do-yun can't handle alone, he calls Seo-jin. No more solo heroics. No more red gates without backup. He says Do-yun's strong, but strength isn't the same as strategy. And Seo-jin's been playing strategy games with the association's data for 6 years. He knows how to move pieces without anyone noticing. Do-yun considers it. He doesn't like relying on other people. Never has. But Ha-hoon's voice is in the back of his head. Power without a heart is empty. He says fine. Partners. Conditionally. Seo-jin extends his hand. Do-yun shakes it. Simulation powers down around them. The white panels reappear. The smell of machine oil returns. And just like that, Do-yun has his first real ally. Someone who knows the truth. Someone who can help him navigate the storm that's coming. But Seo-jin isn't done. As they walk toward the exit, he drops one more warning. He says Do-yun should know something. The association isn't the only group looking for the Phantom. There's been chatter on encrypted channels. Hunters talking about a glitched one. Whispers about someone who moves faster than any S-rank and hits harder than a mana cannon. The Demon Lord's spies are already here, already searching. And if Do-yun's name ever reaches the wrong ear, the quiet life is over. Do-yun stops at the door. He asks if Seo-jin knows who's behind the chatter. Seo-jin says not yet, but he'll find out. That's his specialty. Do-yun pushes the door open. The cold night air hits his face. He's got an analyst in his corner now. An inspector who's still sniffing around. A demon army who's heard rumors about a glitched hunter. And 3 days before his next gate entry, the walls are getting closer. But for the first time in 5 years, he's not standing alone. Seo-jin walks past him into the alley. He says he'll cancel his meeting with Ku tomorrow. Make up an excuse. Buy Do-yun a little more time. But he warns that Ku won't stop. Man's gut is too sharp. Eventually, he'll corner Do-yun again. And when he does, Do-yun better have a plan. Do-yun watches Seo-jin disappear into the dark. Then he turns and walks the other way. Back toward his apartment. Back toward the quiet life he's been pretending to live. But quiet or not, the game has changed. He has an ally now. A strategist who can see the board better than anyone. And if the Demon Lord's forces are already on Earth, already hunting for a glitched hunter, then Do-yun doesn't have the luxury of hiding forever. Sooner or later, he's going to have to stop running and start fighting. That night, he lies in bed with his phone on his chest. The manhwa's still open to the same page. He hasn't read a word. Because he's thinking about what Seo-jin said. About the chatter. About the spies. About the fact that somewhere out there, someone is already looking for him. And they're getting closer. He closes his eyes. Tomorrow he trains. Not in a simulator. Not in a gate. In his mind. He runs every scenario he can think of. Every possible threat. Every angle of attack. Because when the Demon Lord's forces finally find him, he won't have time to plan. He'll only have time to move. And at 10,000 times his old speed, moving fast is the one thing he's good at. The city hums outside his window. Sirens in the distance. A gate alarm somewhere near the river. And in the dark of his apartment, Do-yun smiles. Because for the first time in a long time, he's not just surviving, he's preparing. And when the storm finally hits, he won't be facing it alone. 3 days later, the reports start flooding in. Not the quiet kind either. The association's emergency channel lights up at 3:47 a.m. A gate tears open in the middle of Myeongdong. Not a red gate. Something worse. The portal pulses a sickly green, and the first thing that stumbles out is a corpse. Then another. Then 50 more. By sunrise, the entire district is cordoned off. Military trucks block every road leading into the city center. Helicopters circle overhead, and news drones are banned from the airspace. The official statement calls it a containment breach. Everyone who's ever cleared a gate knows the truth. This isn't a breach, it's an invasion. Seo-jin calls Do-yun before his alarm even goes off. He says the association is scrambling every A rank and above to the perimeter. The zombies aren't fast, but they're relentless. And the real nightmare hasn't even started yet. Because every time a hunter puts one down, 2 more crawl out of the gate to replace it. The math is simple, and it's terrifying. Do-yun pulls on his hoodie and grabs his gear bag. He texts Seo-jin back with 3 words. Meet me there. 20 minutes later, he's standing at the outer barricade. The smell hits him first. Rotting meat and something older. Something that hasn't breathed in centuries. Seo-jin arrives with a tablet in one hand and a grim expression on his face. He says the gate signature isn't matching anything in the association's database. It's not a standard dungeon. It's not a demon incursion. It's something custom-made. Do-yun asks what he means by custom-made. Seo-jin rotates the tablet and shows him the mana readings. Gate's energy pattern is looping. It's been programmed to keep producing the same result over and over. Every zombie that dies triggers the gate to generate 2 more. It's a perpetual army machine, and someone built it on purpose. Do-yun stares at the green glow pulsing between the skyscrapers. He asks if anyone's tried closing the gate from the inside. Seo-jin says 3 teams went in. None came out. The association is preparing to authorize a tactical mana bombardment. Level the whole block if they have to. But that won't close the gate either. They'll just bury it under rubble while the zombies keep multiplying underground. Do-yun cracks his neck. He says he's going in. Seo-jin doesn't argue. He just taps his tablet and pulls up a rough map of the gate's interior. Thermal imaging shows a central chamber about 800 meters from the entry point. The undead are spawning from something in there. Something doing the programming. Do-yun nods and says to keep the perimeter locked. No one follows him in. Especially not the association. Seo-jin reminds him of their deal. No solo heroics. Do-yun grins and says this isn't solo. Seo-jin's coming with him. Our analyst blinks twice. Then he sighs and tucks his tablet into a reinforced case. He mutters something about needing a raise. And just like that, the 2 of them step past the barricade. The gate swallows them whole. Inside the world is green and gray. The sky is a ceiling of compressed bone. The ground squelches underfoot like wet leather. Zombies shuffle through the corridors ahead in loose clusters. They don't run. They don't need to. There are thousands of them. Seo-jin stays close and feeds Do-yun directions through an earpiece. His tablet is still reading structural mana flows even inside the gate. He says the programming pulse is coming from straight ahead. But the corridor is packed wall to wall with the dead. Do-yun flexes his fingers. He tells Seo-jin to stay behind him and keep his head down. Then he moves. His fist connects with the first zombie, and it explodes into dust. 2 more rise from the ash immediately. Do-yun doesn't slow down. He sweeps his leg through a row of them, and the corridor fills with falling bodies and fresh spawns. The new zombies are faster. Their eyes glow brighter, and their claws are longer. Seo-jin shouts that the gate is adapting. Each generation is learning from the last. Do-yun says good. Let them learn. He accelerates. At 10,000 times his old speed, the air itself turns into a weapon. He doesn't even need to punch anymore. He just runs. The shockwave of his movement pulverizes everything in the corridor. Zombies turn to mist. The walls crack. The ceiling groans. And still more of them pour out of the darkness ahead. Seo-jin sprints behind him, gasping out updates between breaths. He says the mana pulse is getting stronger. They're close. 200 meters, then 100. Then the corridor opens into a massive underground chamber. And in the center of that chamber sits a throne made of fused rib bones. On that throne sits something that used to be human. It wears a crown of black iron set with a single, pulsing gem. Its eyes burn green. Its skin is stretched tight over bones that have been dead for centuries. And when it speaks, its voice rattles like stones in a metal drum. It says its name is Meng-hyun-soo, and it's been waiting for someone worth killing. Seo-jin's tablet screams with mana readings. He whispers that the gem on the crown is generating the loop. The entire army is being powered through that one object, a phylactery. Do-yun cracks his knuckles and steps forward. Mang Hyun-soo rises from his throne. He's tall. Taller than the demon general was, and the moment he stands, every zombie in the chamber freezes in place, waiting. The undead king raises one skeletal hand, and the floor splits open. More corpses climb out. These ones are armored. Ancient warriors with rusted swords and shields that drip black ichor. Seo-jin backs toward a pillar and says he'll work on jamming the gate's signal. If he can scramble the phylactery's frequency, the spawning might stop. But he needs time. Do-yun says take all the time he needs. Then he launches himself at the undead army. The first armored zombie swings a blade the size of a door. Do-yun catches it with his bare hand and snaps the steel in half. He drives his elbow through the warrior's chest and it crumbles. Two more rise from the dust. He kicks one into the ceiling and shoulder checks the other through a stone pillar. The chamber shakes with every impact. Mang Hyun-soo watches from his throne with those burning green eyes. He doesn't move. He doesn't blink. He just watches. Do-yun tears through wave after wave. But the zombies keep coming faster. And each generation is noticeably stronger than the last. Their bones don't break as easily now. Their swords leave scratches on his arms. Nothing fatal, but the trend is clear. Give this thing another hour and it'll be spawning creatures that can actually hurt him. Seo-jin shouts from behind the pillar. He says he's found the frequency. The phylactery is broadcasting on a looped mana channel. If Do-yun can crack the gem, all the undead lose their connection. They'll crumble. Every single one of them. Do-yun looks up at the crown on Mang Hyun-soo's head. The undead king finally stands. He steps down from his throne and draws a weapon from his own ribcage. It's a sword made of compressed vertebrae. Every link of it drips with necrotic mana. He says Do-yun has been very entertaining. But the show is over. Mang Hyun-soo moves, and for the first time since Do-yun entered the gate, something keeps up with him. The undead king's speed isn't natural. His phylactery is burning its stored mana to match Do-yun's acceleration. They collide in the center of the chamber with enough force to crack the floor in a 20-meter radius. Do-yun grins. Finally, a real fight. They trade blows faster than any camera could capture. Mang Hyun-soo's bone sword leaves trails of green fire in the air. Every swing comes within a hair of Do-yun's throat. But Do-yun's been training for this. Not in a simulator, in his head. Every night since he met Seo-jin, he's run scenarios against enemies faster and stronger than anything he's faced. And Mang Hyun-soo may be fast, but he's predictable. His pattern is rhythmic. Attack, retreat, attack. Like a drumbeat. Do-yun waits for the third strike in the sequence and sidesteps. Mang Hyun-soo's sword slams into empty air, and Do-yun's hand closes around the crown. The undead king roars and swings wildly, but Do-yun is already gone. He's on the other side of the chamber holding the crown in both hands. The gem pulses against his palm, warm and wet, like a living heart. Seo-jin yells for him to crush it now. Mang Hyun-soo screams something in a language that hasn't been spoken in 1,000 years. Do-yun squeezes. The gem resists. It pushes back with a wall of mana that would incinerate any normal hunter. Do-yun's arms shake. The green fire crawls up his wrists and burns through his sleeves. But his grip doesn't loosen. He pours every ounce of his 10,000 times strength into his fingers. And the gem cracks. A single hairline fracture. Mang Hyun-soo falls to his knees. The zombies in the chamber freeze mid-step. Do-yun squeezes harder. The crack spreads. Green light bleeds out of the gem like blood from a wound. And then, with a sound like a church bell, breaking, the phylactery shatters. The pulse stops. Every zombie in the chamber crumbles to dust instantly. Mang Hyun-soo's body cracks apart and collapses into a pile of ancient bones. The throne disintegrates. The green light in the ceiling fades, and the gate begins to groan. Seo-jin grabs Do-yun's shoulder and says they need to move. The gate is destabilizing. Without the phylactery maintaining the dimensional lock, the whole pocket realm is going to collapse. Do-yun scoops up the largest piece of the shattered gem. It's still warm and still humming with residual mana. He pockets it and grabs Seo-jin by the arm. They run. The corridors are already folding in on themselves. Stone becomes liquid. Bone becomes dust. The gate exit flickers ahead like a dying television screen. Do-yun accelerates and drags Seo-jin through the portal, just as the entire pocket dimension implodes behind them. They crash onto the pavement in the middle of Myeongdong. The green gate sputters, shrinks, and winks out of existence. Seo-jin lies on his back, gasping at the morning sky. He asks if that really just happened. Do-yun sits up and pulls the gem fragment from his pocket. It glows faintly in the daylight. He says they just cleared a gate that was programmed to never be cleared. And they walked out with a prize. Seo-jin sits up and stares at the gem. His tablet starts beeping wildly. He says the mana signature is off the charts. This thing isn't just a phylactery fragment. It's a magical core. One that could power a high-tier artifact. Or create one from scratch. Do-yun tucks it back into his pocket and helps Seo-jin to his feet. The association's cleanup crews are already moving in. Trucks and medics and inspectors flooding the barricade. Reporters are shouting questions from behind the police tape. And somewhere in the crowd, Do-yun spots a familiar stone-faced figure. Koo Min-seok. The inspector is watching them. Not approaching, just watching. Do-yun pulls his hood lower and tells Seo-jin they need to vanish before Koo decides to ask questions. Seo-jin nods and leads them through a side alley into the maze of back streets behind the shopping district. 30 minutes later, they're in Seo-jin's hidden office under the old textile factory. The gem fragment sits on a scanner pad between them. Seo-jin's holographic displays show layers of data Do-yun doesn't even pretend to understand. But the summary is simple. This core contains enough mana to power a weapon capable of hurting something that can nullify stats. Something like a demon lord. Do-yun leans back in his chair and stares at the glowing fragment. He says they need to find out who built that gate, because someone programmed it to create an infinite army, and that someone is still out there. Seo-jin pulls up a new screen. He says there's something else. While they were inside the gate, his tablet picked up a secondary signal, a transmission piggybacking on the phylactery's frequency. It wasn't coming from Earth. It was coming from somewhere else, somewhere outside the dimensional barrier. And the encryption matches the chatter he's been tracking. The Demon Lord's spies. Do-yun's jaw tightens. He asks if they know about him. Seo-jin says not yet, but they're getting closer. And whoever built the zombie gate was probably testing something, a weapon designed to overwhelm Earth's hunters. If Do-yun hadn't been there to crush the phylactery, the city center would be a graveyard by now. Do-yun stands up and walks to the window. The sun is fully up now. The city is still waking up, and most people have no idea how close they came to annihilation. He turns back to Seo-jin and says they need to move faster. Find the spies. Find the source of the encrypted chatter, and build something with that core before the Demon Lord's forces find them first. Seo-jin nods and starts typing. He says he knows someone who might be able to help. A contact in the black market. If anyone's selling information about glitch-touched items, this contact will know. But accessing the black market means going deep undercover. And the kinds of people who deal in glitched artifacts aren't the kind you walk away from clean. Do-yun picks up the gem fragment and holds it to the light. He says he's been playing defense for too long. It's time to go on the offensive. And if the black market is where the answers are, that's exactly where he's going. Seo-jin's contact sends a pin 3 days later, drops into his encrypted tablet at 2:14 a.m. A single coordinate and a time. Not a name, not a message. Just a location in the old shipyard district and the words, midnight. Wear something expensive. Seo-jin reads it out loud in the hidden office under the textile factory. Do-yun's leaning against the wall with the glowing gem fragment turning in his fingers. He asks, what kind of expensive? Seo-jin says the kind that says, I own buildings. Do-yun grins and says he'll figure something out. That's how our boy ends up in a rented 3-piece suit at 11:47 p.m. The fabric is dark gray, the tie is black, and the shoes cost more than his rent. Seo-jin adjusts his own cufflinks and tells him to stop rolling his shoulders. Rich buyers don't fidget. Rich buyers don't look like they can punch through concrete either. Do-yun says he'll do his best impression of a helpless investor. The shipyard is silent, except for the lapping water and the creak of rusted crane. They follow the pin to a warehouse with no signage and 2 men at the door. Both men are built like industrial freezers. One of them holds up a black scanner pad without saying a word. Seo-jin taps his tablet against it, and the pad blinks green. The freezer man grunts and pulls the door open. Inside, a freight elevator waits with its cage door already lifted. The elevator drops for a full 90 seconds. Do-yun counts the seconds in his head. That puts them somewhere deep under the river level. The doors slide open onto a vault carved from solid bedrock. Chandeliers made of monster crystals hang from the ceiling. They glow with a soft blue light that makes everyone look slightly ghostly. Guests in masks and evening wear mill between glass display cases. Waiters carry trays of champagne and tiny pastries. Do-yun scans the room and clocks 6 armed guards along the back wall. Their weapons are high-grade mana rifles with glow sights. He whispers to Seo-jin that security is tighter than the association's main vault. Seo-jin whispers back that that's the point. A woman in a silver dress approaches with a tablet and a smile. She asks for their invitation code. Seo-jin gives her the pin his contacts sent. She taps the screen, and the smile stays perfectly fixed. She says they are bidder number 84 and 85. She hands them each a black domino mask and says the auction begins in 15 minutes. Do-yun slides the mask onto his face and surveys the crowd again. Some of the guests are clearly hunters. He can see the way they stand, the way their eyes track exits. Others are guild sponsors or black market brokers with too much money and not enough conscience. One man in a crimson waistcoat laughs too loud near the champagne tower. A woman with white hair and a scar across her throat watches everyone without blinking. Seo-jin's tablet vibrates against his hip. He glances at the screen, and his face tightens. He tells Do-yun that every guest in this room is flagged in at least 3 prohibited transaction databases. The auction house didn't even scrub the records. They don't care who knows. Do-yun says that's because no one's stupid enough to raid this place. Gong sounds and the lights dim. The crowd turns toward a raised platform at the far end of the vault. A man in a black tuxedo steps onto the stage with a gilded gavel in one hand. He has the kind of smile that makes loan sharks look friendly. He welcomes everyone to the midnight exchange. He says, tonight's catalog features 17 items of exceptional rarity. The first item rises from a hidden panel in the stage floor. It's a dagger with a blade made of crystallized basilisk venom. The auctioneer says it can paralyze an A-rank magical beast with a single scratch. Bidding starts at 80 million won. Do-yun watches paddles rise around the room and doesn't move. He's not here for a knife. Item after item rolls across the stage. A cloak woven from shadow spider silk that bends light around the wearer. A ring that stores 1 full mana charge for emergency use. A set of bracers that harden on impact to deflect S-rank strikes. The prices climb into the hundreds of millions. Do-yun stays motionless and watches the crowd. He's looking for someone who doesn't belong. Someone who moves like a soldier. Someone who watches the other guests the same way he does. Item 11 is what they came for. The auctioneer announces a pendant recovered from a collapsed S-rank gate in the Philippines. He says it was found embedded in the chest cavity of a dead archdemon. The pendant rises on a velvet cushion under a glass dome. It's shaped like a teardrop with a shifting silver core. The auctioneer says it grants a permanent 3% boost to base strength for any hunter below S rank. The room goes quiet. Paddles start lifting before the auctioneer finishes his opening price. 3% doesn't sound like much on paper, but for a hunter stuck at A rank, that's the difference between clearing an S rank gate and dying in it. The bids hit 200 million in under 30 seconds. Seo-jin mutters that those people are buying their own funerals. Do-yun doesn't answer. He's focused on the pendant. His vision sharpens the way it does when he pushes his perception past human limits. The silver core pulses. Irregularly. A real stat-boosting artifact would have a steady mana rhythm. This one stutters. Do-yun can see the flicker. It's like a heartbeat with an arrhythmia. He leans towards Seo-jin and says the pendant is fake. Seo-jin asks how fake. Do-yun says it's spitting out a scrambled signal to mimic a boost. If someone wears it into a real fight, it won't just fail. It'll spike their mana channels and cook them from the inside. Seo-jin's jaw tightens. He asks if Do-yun can spot who made it. Do-yun's eyes sweep the crowd again. This time, he's looking for someone who flinches when the bidding slows. He finds him near the back corner, a man in a gray suit with a tablet pressed to his chest. He's not bidding. He's tracking. Every time a paddle drops, his thumb twitches across the screen. He's logging the buyers. Do-yun nudges Seo-jin and tilts his head toward the gray suit. Seo-jin's eyes narrow and he says he'll tag the guy. The pendant sells for 270 million won to a woman in a feathered mask. She looks triumphant. She doesn't know she just bought a death sentence wrapped in silver. Do-yun watches her slip the pendant into her clutch and feels something cold settle in his stomach. Somewhere, the Demon Lord's people are funding this, flooding the market with fake artifacts that kill the hunters who rely on them. The auctioneer moves on to item 12. But before he can announce it, the lights flicker. Once. Twice. Then the chandeliers cut out entirely. The vault drops into perfect blackness. For 3 full seconds, the only sound is confused murmuring. Then the screaming starts. A blast of concussive force slams through the darkness. Do-yun's vision adjusts instantly, and he sees the source. The main door to the vault has been blown inward. Smoke pours through the opening in thick gray coils. Figures move inside the smoke. 10 of them, then 20. They're wearing tactical gear with no insignia, and their faces are hidden behind black visors. They're carrying mana rifles and concussion grenades, and they're not here to rob anyone. They're here to erase the auction, and everyone in it. First volley of mana rounds tears through the champagne tower. Guests dive behind display cases and overturned tables. The guards along the back wall open fire, but the attackers are already flanking them. One guard drops with a round through his visor, then another. Seo-jin grabs Do-yun's arm and says they need to move. Do-yun doesn't argue. He grabs Seo-jin by the collar of his rented suit and lifts him off the ground. One step carries them 30 feet. Another step puts them behind a collapsed pillar of carved obsidian. A man around punches through the pillar 6 inches from Do-yun's head. He doesn't flinch. He sets Seo-jin down and tells him to stay low. Seo-jin is already pulling up his tablet and says he'll find them a way out. Do-yun rises from behind the pillar and lets the chaos wash over him. The attackers are methodical, sweeping the room in a pincer formation and cutting down anyone who moves. This isn't a smash and grab. This is a professional hit squad. He can hear the auctioneer screaming for help from somewhere near the stage. He's not getting any. One of the attackers spots Do-yun and raises his rifle. Do-yun closes the distance before the man's finger touches the trigger. He slaps the rifle out of the man's hands, and the weapon snaps in half. Then he puts a single finger against the man's chest and pushes. The attacker flies backward and crashes through a display case. He doesn't get up. 2 more attackers turn toward the sound. Do-yun is already behind them. He taps one on the shoulder, and when the man spins, Do-yun flicks his forehead. The man's visor cracks, and he collapses like a puppet with cut strings. The second attacker manages to fire off a round. Do-yun catches it. The mana bolt sizzles against his palm and dissipates. He looks at the attacker. The attacker looks at him. Then Do-yun smiles and says, "Nice try." He moves through the vault like a storm wrapped in a 3-piece suit. Every attacker who turns a weapon on a civilian gets exactly 1 warning. Do-yun's fist against their rifle. Do-yun's palm against their chest. Do-yun's foot sweeping their legs out from under them. None of them die. All of them stay down. The woman in the feathered mask is crouched behind a shattered champagne glass. The clutch lies open on the floor, and the fake pendant glints inside. An attacker raises a rifle toward her head. Do-yun appears between them and catches the barrel. He crumples it into a ball of scrap metal. Then he drops the ball at the attacker's feet and tells him to run. The attacker runs. Seo-jin's voice crackles through the chaos, and he says he found a service tunnel. It leads to a drainage pipe that empties into the river. They can reach it if they move now. Do-yun asks where the gray suit guy is. Seo-jin says he's crawling toward the stage with a tablet clutched to his chest. Do-yun says good and tells Seo-jin to head for the tunnel. He crosses the vault in 3 strides and lands beside the man in the gray suit. The man screams and throws his tablet at Do-yun like it's a shield. Do-yun catches it with one hand and grabs the man's collar with the other. He asks who the man works for. The man stammers that he's just a broker. He doesn't know anything. He just takes orders. Do-yun tightens his grip slightly and asks again. The man says a name. A shell company registered in Pyongyang. Which means it's not really in Pyongyang. It's a Demon Lord front, and it's been operating on Earth for months. Do-yun drops the man and opens the tablet. It's a ledger. Names, dates, transaction amounts, delivery addresses. Every buyer of every fake artifact sold through the Midnight Exchange for the past 6 months. Do-yun scrolls through it at 10,000 times speed. He memorizes every entry in 2 seconds flat. Then he tucks the tablet under his arm and heads for the service tunnel. Seo-jin is waiting at the entrance with his tablet glowing. He says the police and the association are both en route. They have maybe 4 minutes before this place is a crime scene, with their faces on every camera feed. Do-yun says that's plenty of time. They drop into the service tunnel, and Seo-jin seals the hatch behind them. The drainage pipe is cold and wet and smells like rust and river water, but it leads upward and outward. And 40 seconds later, they're climbing onto a concrete embankment under the night sky. The city hums around them, oblivious. Seo-jin collapses onto the grass and gasps at the stars. He asks if that was an auction or a firing squad. Do-yun sits down next to him and pulls the gray suit guy's tablet from his coat. He says it was both, and it was exactly what they needed. He opens the tablet and scrolls through the ledger again. Name after name, address after address. Dozens of real glitch-boosted artifacts sold to hunters who are still alive. Seo-jin reads over his shoulder, and his eyes go wide. He says this isn't just a list of buyers. This is a map of who's funding the Demon Lord's destabilization campaign. Do-yun stops scrolling and taps a single entry near the bottom. Says the biggest buyer on the list is a shell company with a delivery address in the demonic wastes. Seo-jin stares at it and absorbs the impact. The Demon Lord isn't just funding the fake artifacts. He's also buying the real ones. Do-yun says that changes things. If the Demon Lord is hoarding glitch-touched artifacts, It means he's afraid of something. Something that a human hunter with the right gear could use against him, Seo-jin says, or someone. Do-yun looks at him. Seo-jin says the Demon Lord is afraid of a glitched hunter showing up with a weapon that can hurt him. Now they have the core to build that weapon. Do-yun tucks the tablet into his jacket and stands up. He says they need to move faster than they've ever moved before, because if the Demon Lord is scared now, he's about to be terrified. The morning sun hits the Han River and turns the water gold. Do-yun sits on a picnic blanket with a convenience store sandwich in his lap. Ha-eun is next to him, cross-legged in a sundress and sneakers. Her hair is tied back with a yellow ribbon. She's been talking for 5 minutes straight about a new drama she started watching. Do-yun hasn't heard a single word. Not because he's ignoring her, because his brain is still running the ledger entries from last night. Names, addresses, shell companies, delivery dates, 47 buyers across 6 countries, all of them walking around with artifacts that could kill them mid-combat. And somewhere in the demonic wastes, Kang Malgum is hoarding real glitch-touched items like a dragon. Do-yun! He blinks. Ha-eun is staring at him with her sandwich frozen halfway to her mouth. She asks if he even knows what she just said. Do-yun grins and guesses it was about the drama. Wrong. I asked if you wanted ketchup. 5 sentences ago. He looks down at his lap. The sandwich is still wrapped. He hasn't touched it. Ha-eun sets her food down and pulls her knees up to her chest. She says his name again. Not annoyed this time. Quiet. The way she says it when she's been thinking about something for a while, she asks if he remembers their first gate raid together. Do-yun snorts and asks if she means the E-rank slime pit where she slipped in the goo. You caught me before I face-planted. And then you healed the slime. It was whimpering. It was a slime. They both laugh. Sound carries over the grass and disappears into the river breeze. Ha-eun's smile fades slowly. She says he's been different the past few weeks. Not bad different, just distant. Like he's standing on the other side of a gate and the portal is closing. She can see him, but she can't reach him. Do-yun's jaw tightens. He wants to tell her everything. The glitch. The 10,000 times multiplier. The demon general. The zombie king. The auction. The ledger in his jacket pocket with a list of hunters who are walking corpses and don't know it. But he can't, because knowing makes her a target, and Ha-eun is the one person he can't lose. So, he tells her the truth he can give. He says things are getting complicated. There are gates he can't ignore and people who need help. He's just trying to do the right thing. Ha-eun watches him for a long moment. Then she says the right thing doesn't mean doing it alone. She leans forward and pokes his chest. I'm your healer, you idiot. Let me heal you. Do-yun stares at her, not at the yellow ribbon or the sundress or the ketchup packet still dangling from her fingers. At her. The girl who dragged him out of his apartment after his first failed rank evaluation, who made him instant Ramyun and told him F rank wasn't a death sentence, who never once treated him like he was less. He opens his mouth. His phone buzzes. The screen lights up with a name. Seo-jin. Do-yun hesitates. Ha-eun glances at the phone and then back at him. She says to take it. He does. He stands and walks a few steps toward the riverbank. The phone connects, and Seo-jin's voice is clipped and fast. He skips the greeting. No small talk. No banter. He says 3 S-rank hunters are missing. Do-yun's grip tightens on the phone. He asks who. Seo-jin rattles off the names. Eun-woo, Kangdae, Yura. The same hunters Do-yun pulled out of the Red Gate. The same ones who saw the demon general die in one punch. Seo-jin says they vanished from a classified association briefing 2 hours ago. No forced entry. No struggle. No witnesses. Just gone. Do-yun asks if it's the Demon Lord's people. Seo-jin says worse. He says the mana signature at the scene matches Meng Hyun-soo. Do-yun freezes. The undead king. The guy whose phylactery he crushed in Myeongdong. Apparently crushing the gem didn't kill him. It just sent him back to whoever built that gate. And now he's topside. Grabbing S-rank hunters off the street like groceries. Seo-jin says there's more. The mana trace at the scene isn't just Hyun-soo's. It's amplified. Someone supercharged him. Do-yun's jaw clenches. He knows exactly who. Kang Malgum. The Demon Lord isn't just funding fake artifacts and buying real ones. He's building an army of dead hunters, commanded by an undead king who adapts every time you kill him. And the first 3 recruits are the people Do-yun saved. He asks where the trail leads. Seo-jin says east, toward the abandoned industrial zone near the old Ilsan rail yard. He's triangulating the signal now. He'll have a precise location in 20 minutes. Do-yun tells him to send it when he has it. Then he hangs up. He turns back toward the picnic blanket. Ha-eun is standing now. She's folded the blanket and packed the sandwiches into her bag. She doesn't ask what the call was about. She just slings the bag over her shoulder and says she's coming. Do-yun starts to say it's too dangerous. Ha-eun cuts him off. She says she meant what she said. She's his healer. And if he's about to walk into a fight with an undead king who just kidnapped 3 S-rank hunters, he's going to need... She stares at him with her chin up and her eyes bright. Not asking, telling. Do-yun remembers her warning from the picnic. Power without a heart is empty. He's been running solo for weeks. Lying, hiding, dodging, fighting alone in the dark. And the one person offering to stand beside him is the same person he's been pushing away. He exhales. Then he says, okay. But she stays behind him the whole time, and the second things go bad, she runs. Ha-eun grins. She says she'll run. Then she adds that she'll run toward him, not away. Do-yun shakes his head, but he's smiling. They leave the park together. 20 minutes later, they're in a cab crossing the Mapo Bridge. Do-yun's phone buzzes with Seo-jin's location pin. The Ilsan rail yard, behind the old freight depot, underground. Seo-jin adds a note. He says the mana readings are spiking. Whatever Yun-soo is doing down there, it's accelerating. Do-yun types back one word. Coming. He tucks the phone into his jacket and feels the weight of the ledger tablet against his ribs. The Demon Lord is afraid of something. Hyun-soo is grabbing hunters who've seen Do-yun fight. And the only thing that connects those two facts is him. He's not just hiding anymore, he's being hunted. And the Demon Lord is using his friends as bait. The cab drops them 2 blocks from the freight depot. The streets are empty. Most of the factories in this zone shut down years ago. Nothing but rusted chain-link fences and shattered windows and silence. Ha-eun stays close. Her staff is out. A simple wooden thing carved with healing runes. Not much for offense. But she's not here to fight. She's here to make sure Do-yun doesn't die alone in a hole. They cross the rail yard and find the entrance Seo-jin marked. A maintenance hatch, half hidden under a collapsed tarp. The metal is cold and covered in frost. In July. Ha-eun whispers that it's necrotic mana. He can feel it working on the air. Do-yun nods. He grabs the hatch edge and pulls it open like peeling a tin can lid. The shaft drops 30 feet into darkness. Cold air rushes up. It smells like rot and old blood. Do-yun looks at Ha-eun. She takes a deep breath and nods. He wraps one arm around her waist. Then he jumps. They land in a concrete tunnel with 0 sound. Do-yun's 10,000 times agility absorbs the impact like stepping off a curb. Ha-eun exhales and mutters that she's never getting used to that. The tunnel stretches in both directions. One side is dark. The other glows faint blue from somewhere around a bend. Do-yun follows the light. Ha-eun stays 3 steps behind with her staff raised. The tunnel opens into a chamber. It's massive. Easily the size of a soccer stadium. The walls are carved from raw stone and covered in glowing sigils. Not human sigils. Demonic. And at the center of the chamber is a raised platform. On the platform are 3 stone slabs. On the slabs are Unwoo, Kangdae, and Yura. They're alive. Barely. Their eyes are open but glassy and unfocused. Black chains made of compressed necrotic mana bind them to the slabs. And standing between the slabs is Mang Hyun-soo. He's taller than before. His crown is gone, but the gem that was in it is now embedded in his chest. It pulses with a sick green light. He's wearing armor stitched from the bones of the undead he controlled. His grin stretches wider than a human mouth should allow. He speaks without turning around. He says he knew the glitched one would come. He says the Demon Lord sends his regards. Then he raises one hand. The sigils on the walls flare bright, and every shadow in the chamber begins to move. Ha-eun tightens her grip on her staff. Do-yun cracks his knuckle. He says he already killed Hyun-soo once. Doing it again is just cardio. Then he launches forward at 10,000 times base speed. The fight isn't a fight, it's a demolition. Do-yun crosses the chamber in a single breath and drives his fist into Hyun-soo's chest. The bone armor shatters. The impact sends a shockwave through the platform that cracks the stone slabs. Hyun-soo doesn't even try to block. He just absorbs the hit and reforms 10 feet away. His grin doesn't change. He says the Demon Lord has been watching, studying. The nullification field wasn't ready before. Now it is. He raises both hands. The gem in his chest pulses once, and Do-yun feels it. A wave of pressure that hits him like a freight train. His speed drops. Not all the way, but enough. His 10,000 times multiplier doesn't vanish. It just doesn't work inside this chamber. The sigils on the walls are projecting a dampening field. Not a nullifier, a limiter. Do-yun's stats are being capped at maybe 100 times normal instead of 10,000. Ha-un shouts his name. Hyun-soo laughs and asks how it feels to be ordinary again. Do-yun looks at him. Then he looks at the sigils on the walls. Then he looks at the 3 hunters chained to the slabs. He says ordinary is just a number. He says what matters isn't the multiplier. It's what you do with what you have. He turns his back on Hyun-soo and sprints toward Ha-un, not to retreat, to regroup. Hyun-soo sends a wave of shadow constructs after him. Do-yun weaves through them with his speed cut but still fast. He reaches Ha-un and grabs her arm. He says he has a plan. Ha-un asks if it's a good plan. He says it's a plan that needs a healer. She grins and says that's her specialty. Do-yun points at the sigils. The dampening field is powered by the gem in Hyun-soo's chest. But the gem isn't the source. It's a conduit. The real power is coming from somewhere else. Probably the same place Hyun-soo got his upgrade. Demon Lord's Dimension. Ha-un asks how they shut it off without a nullifier of their own. Do-yun says they don't shut it off. They overload it. He holds up his hand. His palm is glowing with mana. The dampener caps his stats at 100 times normal, so he still has 100 times more mana than any hunter alive. Ha-un catches on instantly. She asks if he's going to pump raw mana into the sigils until they fry. Exactly, but I need you to keep me alive while I do it. Hyun-soo won't just stand there. That's why you're running interference, healing, shields, whatever you've got. Ha-un grips her staff and nods. She says he better not die. He says he's too handsome to die. Then he launches toward the nearest sigil-covered wall. Hyun-soo screams and sends every shadow construct in the chamber after him. Ha-un slams her staff into the ground and raises a barrier of golden light around Do-yun. The shadows hit it and hiss and recoil. She's burning through her mana fast, but she doesn't drop the shield. Do-yun reaches the wall and slams both palms against the sigils. He channels everything he has. Raw mana floods into the carvings. The sigils flicker. They're not designed for this much input this fast. Hyun-soo roars and charges. Ha-un steps into his path. She's 5'3" with a wooden stick against a 12-foot undead king with a demon lord's gem in his chest. She raises her staff, and she does not move. She says he's not touching Do-yun, not while she's breathing. The golden barrier flares brighter. Hyun-soo crashes into it, and the impact sends cracks spidering across the light. Ha-un grits her teeth and holds. Behind her, the sigils are sparking. Do-yun pushes harder. More mana, more. The dampening field stutters. For half a second, his full 10,000 times multiplier flickers back online. He feels it. The raw, overwhelming power surges through him. But he doesn't let go of the wall. He keeps pouring mana into the sigils, because if he stops now, the field stabilizes and they lose. Hyun-soo breaks through Ha-un's barrier. She's thrown backward and hits the stone floor hard. Her staff clatters away. Hyun-soo reaches for Do-yun's back. His clawed hand is inches from Do-yun's spine. Then the sigils explode. Every carving on every wall detonates in a chain reaction of blue fire and shattered stone. The dampening field collapses instantly. Do-yun's full power returns in a single heartbeat. He spins and catches Hyun-soo's arm. Then he squeezes. The bone armor crunches. Hyun-soo howls. Do-yun says he's been waiting to do this properly. He punches Hyun-soo in the chest. Not at 100 times power. At 10,000. The gem shatters. The shockwave picks Hyun-soo up and hurls him across the chamber into the far wall. Stone craters around him. He doesn't get up. Do-yun doesn't wait to confirm. He grabs Ha-un off the floor. She's conscious. Barely. Her eyes flutter, and she asks if the sigils broke. He says they broke. She smiles faintly and says, "That's good." He carries her to the platform and sets her down beside the slabs. The black chains on the 3 S-rank hunters are dissolving. Without the gem, Hyun-soo's magic is unraveling. Eun-woo is the first to sit up. She blinks at Do-yun and asks who he is. Do-yun hesitates. This is the moment. He could lie. He could run. He could vanish and stay the phantom forever. Ha-un reaches up from the ground and grabs his sleeve. She says it's time to stop hiding. He looks at her. Then at the 3 hunters he saved twice now. Then he pulls back his hood and says his name. Noh Do-yun, F-rank hunter, and the guy who punched the demon general through the chest. Eun-woo stares at him. Kang-dae, still groggy, says that's insane. Yura just laughs. She says she knew the phantom wasn't some S-rank legend. She says only an idiot with nothing to lose would charge a demon general alone. Do-yun grins. He says he's a special kind of idiot. Then he helps them all to their feet. They leave the chamber through a maintenance shaft Hyun-soo's forces dug. Do-yun carries Ha-eun on his back. She's dozing against his shoulder, her staff clutched loosely in one hand. Eun-woo walks beside him. She asks what happens now. Do-yun says now they stop hiding. He's done pretending to be weak. The Demon Lord knows about him. Hyun-soo was a test run, and if the dampening field was the first draft, the next version will be stronger. They can't afford to wait. He looks at Eun-woo and tells her to call every S rank she trusts. He says the Demon Lord is building an army and kidnapping hunters to do it. If they don't act now, Seoul won't be a city anymore. It'll be a graveyard. Eun-woo nods once. She says she knows where to start. They emerge into the afternoon sunlight. The rail yard is quiet. The sky is clear. But Do-yun's phone buzzes immediately. Seo-jin. He answers. Seo-jin asks if the rescue worked. Do-yun says it worked, and Hyun-soo is down again. Seo-jin exhales. Then he says they have a bigger problem. He says the tablet from the auction just activated a tracking beacon. Someone on the Demon Lord's side knows they have the ledger, and they just sent a hit squad to recover it. The call drops. Do-yun stares at the phone for half a second. Then he moves. Seo-jin's voice is still ringing in his ears. Tracking beacon on the tablet. Hit squad inbound. They're standing in an open rail yard with 3 half-dead S-rank hunters, and Ha-eun barely conscious on his back. Not ideal. He turns to Eun-woo and tells her they've got company coming. Fast company. She doesn't ask questions. She's been a blade dancer for 12 years. She knows an emergency tone when she hears one. Kang-dae cracks his neck and says he's still got one good barrier left in him. Yu-ra flexes her fingers, and a flicker of flame dances across her palm. Tired, drained, still ready to fight. Do-yun almost smiles. These 3 got kidnapped, chained to slabs, and nearly turned into zombie soldiers. And they're already asking where to stand. He sets Ha-eun down gently against a rusted cargo container. Her eyes flutter open, and she asks what's wrong. He tells her to rest. He's done enough for one day. She grabs his wrist before he can pull away. She says she knows that look. He says he doesn't have a look. She says every time he's about to do something stupid, his left eye twitches. He blinks. His left eye definitely twitches. Ha-eun smiles faintly and tells him to win fast. She's too tired to patch him up again. Then she closes her eyes and her grip goes slack. Not unconscious, just resting. Still breathing. Do-yun exhales. Then he turns to the tablet in his jacket. The little screen is glowing red. The tracking signal is loud and obvious. Whoever sent that hit squad isn't trying to be subtle. They know exactly where the tablet is. And they're coming in hot. Seo-jin's voice crackles through the phone speaker. He says he's running the signal through his analysis suite. The encryption matches the Demon Lord's spy chatter from the auction. Same frequency. Same handshake protocol. This isn't some random mercenary crew. This is the Demon Lord's people. Do-yun asks how many. Seo-jin pauses. Then he says the thermal scan just picked up 6 bodies moving at hunter speed. S-rank mana signatures. All of them. 6 S-ranks. Eun-woo hears it. Her face goes pale. She says they can barely stand. Kang-dae's barrier is at maybe 30%. Yu-ra's mana pool is a puddle. And Ha-eun is down. Do-yun cracks his knuckles. Then he asks Seo-jin how long until they arrive. Seo-jin says 3 minutes. Maybe less. Do-yun nods. He tells Eun-woo to take Ha-eun and the other 2 hunters and get to the far end of the rail yard. Behind the old locomotive, stay low and stay quiet. Eun-woo asks what he's going to do. Do-yun pulls back his hood. He says he's done pretending. She stares at him. Kang-dae opens his mouth. Yu-ra just raises an eyebrow. And Do-yun tells them the truth. The short version. He's not F rank. He's not even S rank. He's a glitch. 1 in a billion system error that duplicated his stats 10,000 times. He's the guy who punched the demon general through the chest. He's the Phantom. And right now, he's the only thing standing between 6 Demon Lord assassins and the people he cares about. Kang-dae blinks. He says that explains a lot. Yu-ra laughs. She says she knew it. No F-rank moves like that in a gate. Eun-woo just looks at him for a long moment. Then she asks if he can take 6 S-ranks alone. Do-yun grins. He says he's about to find out. And just like that, he launches. The tablet stays in his jacket. The signal stays active. He wants them to follow it. He wants them to come straight to him instead of searching the rail yard. He's the bait. He crosses the rail yard in half a heartbeat. His speed is back at full strength. 10,000 times his base. The air cracks around him as he moves. Gravel explodes in his wake. He reaches the north end of the yard, where the old switching tower stands. Rusted steel. Broken windows. Perfect ambush terrain. He plants his feet and waits. Doesn't take long. The first assassin drops out of the sky like a meteor. She lands 20 feet away, and the impact shatters concrete. She's tall, wrapped in black tactical gear with red sigils stitched into the fabric, a long curved blade in each hand. Her eyes glow faintly green. Yeon-woo. Not fully human anymore. He tilts her head at Do-yun and asks if he's the one carrying the ledger. Do-yun holds up the tablet and asks if she means this. She smiles. Too many teeth. Then 4 more assassins land around him in a perfect pentagon formation. 2 men, 2 women. Same black gear, same red sigils, same glowing eyes. And the 6th one doesn't land at all. He stays airborne, hovering 50 feet up with wings of compressed shadow spreading from his back. Big guy, arms like tree trunks, a greatsword strapped across his spine that's taller than Do-yun. The flyer speaks. His voice comes out like gravel rolling downhill. He says they have orders to retrieve the tablet and kill everyone who's seen it. He asks if Do-yun wants to beg. Then he says he's got a better idea. He moves. The first assassin doesn't even see him coming. Do-yun crosses the distance in 0.0 seconds and drives his fist into her stomach. Not a killing blow. He's not trying to kill these people. They're hunters. Corrupted, demon-touched, but still human underneath. The Demon Lord did this to them, but he's definitely not going to let them walk away. The assassin folds around his fist and slams backward into a stack of railway ties. The wood splinters on impact. She doesn't get up. The other 4 react fast. S-rank reflexes. They scatter and reposition. One of the men raises a hand, and a barrier of black mana forms between them. Another woman hurls a volley of shadow darts from her fingertips. The 3rd man charges with a spear crackling with dark lightning. Do-yun sidesteps the darts. He catches the spear between 2 fingers. Then he twists. The weapon snaps like a twig. The assassin stares at his broken spear. Do-yun taps him on the forehead. Gently, by his standards. The man drops like a stone. 2 down. The airborne guy roars and drops out of the sky. His greatsword comes down in a 2-handed overhead strike that would split a tank in half. Do-yun doesn't dodge. He raises one arm and blocks the blade with his forearm. The impact sends a shockwave rippling across the rail yard. Windows shatter in the switching tower. Gravel jumps 6 inches off the ground. But Do-yun doesn't move an inch. The flyer's eyes go wide. He whispers that it's impossible. Do-yun says he gets that a lot. Then he grabs the greatsword by the blade and rips it out of the man's hands. He headbutts the flyer. Just a quick snap forward. The man's nose crunches. He staggers back, wings flickering and sputtering. Before he can recover, Do-yun drives an elbow into the side of his head. The wings collapse. The big guy crashes to the ground and doesn't move. 3 down in under 10 seconds. The remaining 2 assassins hesitate. The woman with the shadow darts starts forming a bigger attack. Black energy coils around both her arms. She's charging something serious. The man beside her drops to one knee and slams both palms against the ground. A summoning circle spreads out from his hands. Red light pulses beneath the dirt. Do-yun recognizes the pattern. They're calling something through. A gate rift, small but stable. Demon reinforcements. Yeah, that's not happening. He crosses the yard and kicks the summoner in the ribs. Not full strength, just enough. The man flies sideways, and the circle fizzles out. The woman screams and releases her charged attack from point-blank range. A torrent of shadow energy blasts straight into Do-yun's chest. It's hot and it stings, and it pushes him back half a step. That's it. She stares at him. Her glowing eyes are wide. She whimpers and asks what he is. Do-yun answers honestly. He's a lucky F rank with a glitch. Then he flicks her forehead. She crumples. 5 down. And the whole fight took maybe 20 seconds. Do-yun looks up at the sky. Clear except for a few clouds. No more assassins dropping in. He checks the tablet. The tracking beacon is still live. They're probably sending a second wave. But that's not the problem. The problem is the voice that comes from behind him. It says his name. Noh Do-yun. It says it's slow, like it's tasting each syllable. And there's only one thing in the world that sounds like that. Do-yun turns. Inspector Koo Min-suk is standing 50 feet away with his hands in his coat pockets. His compact frame is silhouetted against the afternoon sun. His stone face is unreadable. But his eyes are fixed on the 5 unconscious assassins scattered around the rail yard. Then they move to Do-yun. Koo takes one hand out of his pocket. He's holding a small recording device. The red light is on. He says he's been listening. Do-yun's blood goes cold. Koo says he triangulated the tracking signal on the tablet. It wasn't just the Demon Lord's people who picked it up. The International Hunter Oversight Committee monitors those frequencies. And when an unknown beacon starts broadcasting from a rail yard where 3 kidnapped S-ranks were just rescued, the committee takes notice. He says he came alone. For now. Do-yun asks what he wants. Koo Min-suk looks at the unconscious assassins, then at the cratered concrete and shattered railway ties, then back at Do-yun. He says he wants the truth. All of it. Right now. Do-yun could lie. He could run. He could knock Koo out and vanish with the tablet, and hope the committee doesn't have backup already in the air. But Ha-eun's words echo in his head. Time to stop hiding. So Do-yun tells him everything. The glitch button in the loot box. The stat duplication 10,000 times over. The demon general in the red gate. The undead king and his phylactery. The dampening field that almost killed him. The demon lord building an army of dead hunters. All of it. Koo listens without interrupting. When Do-yun finishes, there's a long silence. Then Koo Min-suk does something Do-yun has never seen him do. He smiles. Just a little. Just a twitch at the corner of his mouth. But it's there. He says he knew it. From the moment he saw Do-yun drop that hobgoblin with a lucky punch in the C-rank gate. The heart rate that never spiked. The breathing that never changed. The calm that wasn't natural. He says Do-yun is a terrible liar. Do-yun says he's been working on it. Koo clicks off the recording device. He tucks it back into his pocket. Then he says the committee doesn't need to hear this. Not yet. Not while the Demon Lord is still out there kidnapping hunters and building gates that pump out infinite armies. He looks at Do-yun and asks one question. Can Do-yun actually beat the Demon Lord? Do-yun doesn't lie. He says he doesn't know. The Demon Lord can nullify stats. His dampening field was a test run. The next version will be stronger. And if they don't find a way to counter that ability, none of it matters. Koo nods slowly. Then he says he might know someone who can help. Do-yun raises an eyebrow. Koo says there's a hunter he's been tracking for years. Off the books. Not registered with any association. A genius mage who specializes in dimensional magic and nullification theory. Her name is Yoon Ji-woo. Do-yun files that name away. Before he can ask more, his phone buzzes again. Seo-jin. He answers. Seo-jin's voice is tight. He says the tablet signal just tripled in strength. The Demon Lord's people are boosting the beacon. They're not sending a second team, they're coming themselves. Do-yun asks how long. Seo-jin says they're opening a gate right now. And just like that, the sky splits open above the rail yard. A black gate tears through reality 30 feet above the switching tower. Jagged edges. Bleeding that familiar dark lightning. But this one is different. It's smaller than the red gate in Myeongdong. Controlled. Precise. Someone on the other side knows exactly what they're doing. The gate stabilizes. And a figure steps through. Do-yun expected another demon general. Or a squad of corrupted hunters. Or even Hyun-soo's master. Some ancient undead lord with a dozen phylacteries. What he gets is worse. The figure is human-sized. Dressed in a crisp gray suit. His hair is slicked back. He's wearing gloves. White. Spotless. And he's holding a tablet of his own. He lands on the roof of the switching tower like he's stepping off an elevator. No impact, no shockwave. Just one moment he's falling. The next, he's standing perfectly still. He looks down at Do-yun with eyes that are completely black. No iris. No white. Just smooth, featureless darkness. He says his name is Bae Jae-won. And he says he's been looking for another glitcher. Do-yun's heart stops. Another glitcher. Someone else who found a system error. Someone else who broke the rules. But Jae-won's glitch isn't stat duplication. Do-yun can tell just by the way the man stands. The way the air bends around him. The way the mana in the rail yard seems to flow toward him, like water toward a drain. Jae-won smiles. It's a cold expression. Professional. He says he works for the Demon Lord. Freelance. And his job today is simple. He points at Do-yun. He says he's here to copy his power. And then he moves. Not fast. Not like Do-yun's 10,000 times speed, but he doesn't need to be fast. Because the moment he steps off the tower, the world shifts. Do-yun feels it instantly. A pressure in his skull. A weight on his shoulders. The same sensation he felt in Hyun-soo's chamber when the dampening field activated. But this isn't a field. This is something else. Something targeted. Something inside his own body. Jae-won's glitch. Skill mimicry. He's not copying Do-yun's stats. He can't. That's not how his glitch works. But he's reading Do-yun's mana patterns, his muscle memory, his combat instincts. Everything Do-yun has learned to do with his 10,000 times multiplier, Jae-won is downloading it in real time. Do-yun feels his own body twitch, a phantom echo of someone else's control. He grits his teeth and forces himself to move. He swings. Full speed, full power. A punch that would disintegrate a goblin army. Jae-won sidesteps. Not because he's faster, he's not. Do-yun can see the difference. Jae-won is moving at maybe 20 times normal speed. S-rank reflexes tuned to the max. But he shouldn't be able to dodge a 10,000 times punch unless he already knew where the punch was going, because he's reading Do-yun's intent. The downloaded muscle memory. The copied instincts. Jae-won isn't reacting to Do-yun's attacks. He's anticipating them. Do-yun swings again. Jae-won ducks. Again. Jae-won pivots. Again and again and again. Do-yun throws a dozen punches in the span of a single heartbeat, and every single one hits empty air. Jae-won isn't even breathing hard. He says this is interesting. He says Do-yun's glitch is raw power. No technique, no finesse, just numbers. But numbers can be predicted, and prediction is the basis of all mimicry. He says he's going to enjoy adding Do-yun's moveset to his collection. He counterattacks. His fist connects with Do-yun's jaw, and for the first time since the stat duplication activated, Do-yun feels pain. Real pain. Because Jae-won isn't hitting him with normal strength, he's hitting him with Do-yun's own strength, copied from the muscle memory he just downloaded, amplified through his own mana pool. It's not 10,000 times. Jae-won can't duplicate numbers, but it's enough. Do-yun staggers back. His ears ring. Blood fills his mouth. Jae-won tilts his head and asks if that hurt. Do-yun spits red onto the gravel. Then he grins. He says it stung a little, and he launches forward again. This time, he doesn't try to outspeed Jae-won's predictions. He doesn't try to overpower the mimicry with bigger numbers. He does something Jae-won can't copy. He fights stupid. No technique, no patterns, no trained combat instincts. Just raw, chaotic, unpredictable flailing. He swings wide. He kicks low. He throws elbows at weird angles. He headbutts. He bites. He fights like a kid in a schoolyard brawl. Like the old days before he ever awakened. Like he's got nothing to lose. And Jae-won can't read it. Because there's nothing to read. No technique to copy. No pattern to predict. Just a guy with 10,000 times stats throwing his body around like a wrecking ball. Jae-won's black eyes widen. Do-yun's fist connects with his chest. The gray-suited glitcher rockets backward and slams into the switching tower. The whole structure groans. Rusted steel buckles. The tower starts to collapse. Do-yun doesn't let up. He grabs Jae-won by the collar and hurls him away from the falling debris. The man bounces across the rail yard like a skipped stone across a pond. He crashes through a cargo container, then another. Then he finally stops, buried in twisted metal. Do-yun stands over him and asks if he's done copying. Jae-won laughs. It's a wet sound. Blood bubbles on his lips. But he's still smiling. He says Do-yun is clever. He says the Demon Lord was right to be cautious. Then he taps a device on his wrist, and reality folds around him. Do-yun lunges, but his hand closes on empty air. Jae-won is gone. Teleported. The same cheap trick Hyun-soo used. These Demon Lord minions love their escape buttons. Do-yun swears under his breath, but then a voice whispers in his ear. Jae-won's voice. Some kind of residual mana projection. A last message left behind. He says the Demon Lord knows about the glitch. He knows about the 10,000 times multiplier. And he's very, very interested. He says Do-yun is marked. Then the voice fades. Do-yun stands alone in the wrecked rail yard. 5 unconscious assassins, 1 escaped glitcher, and a tablet that's still broadcasting their location. Koo Min-suk walks up beside him. He watched the whole fight from 50 yards away. His stone face is cracked. Just a little. He looks at the collapsed tower, the shattered containers, the cratered ground. Then he looks at Do-yun and says he's going to need a bigger report. Do-yun almost laughs. Almost. But then his phone buzzes again. A text from Seo-jin. 4 words. Get out. Now. Do-yun looks up. The sky above the rail yard is swirling. Not a gate, something worse. A scrying spell. A massive one. Someone is watching them. Someone on the other side of reality. Someone with eyes like burning coals. And a voice that rumbles across the entire rail yard like thunder. It says Noh Do-yun's full name. It says it with the weight of centuries behind it. It says they will meet soon. The Demon Lord. Kang Mal-gum. He knows Do-yun's name. He knows his face. He knows his glitch. And he's not afraid. Do-yun stares up at the swirling sky. His jaw is still bleeding. His knuckles are raw. His heart is pounding at 10,000 times its normal rhythm. But he's standing. He looks at Ku. He looks at the scrying spell. Then he looks at his phone. He texts Seo-jin back. 3 words. Let him come. Then he grabs the tablet out of his jacket. He holds it up to the sky. He lets the Demon Lord see it. See him. See everything. And then he crushes it. The tablet shatters in his grip. The tracking beacon dies. The scrying spell flickers and starts to collapse. Do-yun speaks to the fading sky. He says he's not hiding anymore. End of the line for the quiet F rank. The Phantom is done. Noh Do-yun is stepping into the light, and the Demon Lord just got his first real look at the man who's coming for him. 24 hours after the rail yard, Do-yun books a private training facility. One of those high-end spots in Gangnam, the kind where the doors lock from the inside and the walls are rated for S-rank mana discharge. Meant for guild elites working on secret techniques. Our boy isn't there for secrecy. He's there because he needs to think. Chae-won's skill mimicry caught him off guard. Not the copying itself. The fact that someone else out there has a glitch too, and that someone works for the Demon Lord. Do-yun throws a punch at a reinforced dummy. It explodes. Another dummy. Same result. He can't even train properly because everything he touches just breaks. So he drops to the floor and starts doing push-ups. One-handed, then one-fingered, then no hands at all. Kidding on that last one, but he's still sweating through his shirt when the door opens. Not the keypad, not the emergency release. The door just slides open, and in both Jae-won. Same crisp gray suit, same white gloves, same completely black eyes. It looks like he just stepped out of a board meeting for a company that sells nightmares. Chae-won claps slowly and says the strongest hunter in Seoul does push-ups like a military recruit. Do-yun doesn't get up. He just tilts his head and asks how Jae-won found him. Chae-won taps his temple and says, Do-yun's mana signature is burned into his memory now, after their little scuffle at the rail yard. The mimicry left a trace. A ghost signal he can track anywhere on the peninsula. Do-yun finally stands, wipes his hands on his pants, asks if Chae-won came back for round 2. Chae-won laughs. It's not a nice sound. He says he's not here to fight, he's here to talk. Do-yun doesn't lower his guard. Neither would you if the guy chatting you up could copy your best moves mid-sentence. Chae-won walks a slow circle around the training room. He runs a gloved finger along the shattered dummies. He says Do-yun's power is magnificent. Raw stats multiplied beyond anything the system ever intended. A true glitch, not like his own. His own is just mimicry, a cheap parlor trick compared to the real thing. Do-yun watches him and says nothing. Chae-won stops circling, faces Do-yun directly. He says he wants to make a deal. Do-yun asks, what kind of deal? Chae-won says the kind where they don't kill each other, the kind where they team up. Against the Demon Lord. Do-yun's left eye twitches. That little tell he's had since he was a kid. He asks why he should trust a guy who tried to download his muscle memory 10 minutes ago. Chae-won says Do-yun shouldn't trust him. Trust is for people who haven't seen what the Demon Lord is building. He pulls off one of his gloves. His hand underneath is not normal. The skin is gray, cracked like dried clay. Veins of black mana pulse visibly beneath the surface. Chae-won says the Demon Lord gave him this. Says it's the price of borrowing power from something that's been sealed for 1,000 years. He flexes his fingers, and the gray cracks spread a little further up his wrist. Chae-won says the Demon Lord promised him a way to fix the mimicry glitch. Make it permanent instead of a temporary copy. But the price keeps going up. First it was small jobs. Deliver messages, scout hunters. Then it was bigger things. Assassinations, sabotage. Now the Demon Lord wants him to copy Do-yun's stats. All 10,000 times of them. And Jae-won knows what happens if he tries. His body can't hold that much power. He'd burn out in seconds. The Demon Lord knows that too. Chae-won was meant to be a suicide bomb, a glitch-powered missile aimed at the one hunter who scares Kang Mal-gum. Do-yun listens to all of this, takes it in. Then he asks the only question that matters. What changed? Chae-won looks down at his gray hand. Says he watched Do-yun fight the assassins, watched him not kill a single one. Even the guy with the greatsword, even the woman with the lightning spear. Do-yun could have ended them all in under a second, but he didn't. Chae-won says he's worked for the Demon Lord for 8 months, and in that time he's never seen mercy. Not once. He says, maybe a glitch like Do-yun's attached to a person who doesn't use it for cruelty is worth betting on. Do-yun crosses his arms, asks what the offer actually is. Chae-won says information. He knows the Demon Lord's awakening schedule. He knows where the next 3 gates will open. He knows the names of the hunters who've already been turned. And he knows something else, something Do-yun really needs to hear. Chae-won takes a breath and says the Demon Lord isn't just building an army of dead hunters. He's building a cage, a trap specifically designed to hold Do-yun. But to make it work, Kang Malgum needs Jae-won to copy Do-yun's moveset one more time. A complete download. Every combat instinct, every pattern, every reflex. If Chae-won does that, the cage becomes a perfect counter. Do-yun won't be able to throw a single punch that isn't already predicted and neutralized. Do-yun stays quiet. Chae-won says that's the deal. He refuses to complete the download. He feeds the Demon Lord bad data instead. In exchange, Do-yun helps him break the hold the Demon Lord has on his body. The gray skin. The spreading cracks. The leash. Do-yun studies him for a long moment. Then he says, Chae-won is asking a lot for a guy who tried to cave his skull in last time they met. Chae-won says he wasn't trying to cave his skull. He was testing him. If he'd wanted Do-yun dead, he would have brought the hit squad himself, instead of letting the assassins go first. Do-yun concedes the point. He thinks about Ha-hoon, about So-jin, about Koo and Ji-woo, and the 3 S ranks still recovering from the rail yard. He thinks about the ledger in his jacket, the list of hunters walking around with death sentences they don't know about. And he thinks about what Ha-hoon told him at the picnic. He looks at Jae-won's gray hand, the black veins pulsing, the cracks spreading. He says he'll help, but there are conditions. Chae-won asks what kind. Do-yun holds up one finger and says, no more working for the Demon Lord. No more passing information. No more scouting. Chae-won is done with Kang Malgum as of right now. Chae-won nods and says, done. Do-yun holds up a second finger and says, Chae-won helps him find the hunters on the ledger. Every single one. Before the Demon Lord turns them. Chae-won says that's thousands of names. Do-yun says he knows. Then he holds up a third finger and says the bad data Jae-won feeds the Demon Lord needs to be convincing. Not obviously fake. Something the Demon Lord will believe. Right up until the moment it doesn't work. Chae-won smiles. It's the first genuine expression Do-yun has seen on his face. He says he can do that. He's very good at lying. Do-yun lowers his hand and says one more thing. If Jae-won betrays him, if this is a trick, if he tries to complete that download and give the Demon Lord what he wants, Do-yun won't just beat him, he'll find him. No matter where he runs, no matter how far he teleports, no matter what cheap escape button his glitch gives him. Chae-won's black eyes don't blink. He says he understands. Then he holds out his gray hand, the cracked one, the one the Demon Lord is slowly consuming. He says they have a deal. Do-yun looks at the hand, then he shakes it. And for the first time since Chae-won walked in, Do-yun grins. He says Chae-won's going to regret this. Chae-won asks why. Do-yun says his training is brutal. And if they're going to be allies, Chae-won is going to train with him. Every day. No excuses. Chae-won looks at the shattered dummies. The cratered floor. The bent steel walls. He says he might regret this. Do-yun laughs and slaps him on the back. Hard enough to stagger him. Says they start tomorrow. Then his phone buzzes. So-jin. Do-yun answers. Seo-jin's voice is tight and says, Koo Min-suk just sent a data packet. Information on Yoon Ji-woo, the genius mage. She's agreed to meet, tonight, at a location outside the city. Seo-jin says there's something else. Something in the data packet that doesn't add up. A second signal. Faint. Buried under layers of encryption. But it's broadcasting from inside the association's own network. Seo-jin says someone is feeding the Demon Lord information from the inside. Do-yun glances at Jae-won. Chae-won shakes his head and mouths that it's not him. Do-yun believes him, or at least he believes him enough for now. He asks So-jin if she can trace the signal. She says she's already working on it. But whoever set it up knew what they were doing. It'll take time. Time they don't have. Do-yun tells her to keep digging. Then he hangs up and looks at Jae-won and says it seems like the Demon Lord has more spies than just him. Jae-won says the Demon Lord has been planning this awakening for centuries. He has eyes everywhere. In the association. In the guilds. In places Do-yun wouldn't think to look. Do-yun says they need to find them. All of them. Before Kang Malgum's cage snaps shut. Chae-won pulls his glove back on. Smooths it over the gray skin. The black veins disappear beneath white fabric. He says he knows where to start. Do-yun asks where. Chae-won says the Demon Lord's recruiting hub, a gate that doesn't spawn monsters. Just messages, instructions, orders. It's hidden inside a collapsed subway tunnel under Yongsan. Do-yun asks how many hunters the Demon Lord has turned through it. Chae-won says he doesn't know exactly, but the last time he was there, the line stretched around the block. Do-yun's jaw tightens. He says they're going, tonight, before the meeting with Ji-woo, before anything else. Chae-won asks if he's sure. Do-yun says the Demon Lord already knows his name, knows his face, knows his glitch. The time for caution is over. Now it's time to start breaking things. He grabs his jacket, checks his phone, texts Ha-eun a single line. He tells her he's okay. He'll explain everything soon. Just trust him a little longer. Then he pockets the phone and heads for the door. Chae-won falls into step beside him. Two glitched hunters. One with stats multiplied 10,000 times. One with the ability to copy anything he sees. Walking out of a Gangnam training facility together. An hour ago, they were enemies. Now there's something else. Something the Demon Lord didn't plan for. Something Kang Malgum's 1,000-year-old strategies never accounted for. A team. The Demon Lord just lost his best scout. Do-yun and Jae-won push through the training facility's front door. The air outside is still warm from the afternoon sun. They're halfway to the curb when the sky tears open. Not a crack, not a ripple. A clean black rectangle appears 10 feet above the asphalt. It hovers there, completely silent. No warning. Do-yun's left eye twitches. Chae-won freezes mid-step and says that's not a normal gate. No spawn pulse. No mana bleed. Just a door. And something stepping out. The figure drops onto the street. It lands without a sound. Same height as Do-yun. Same build. Same hoodie. But it's made of pure black shadow. No face. Just a smooth, dark surface where features should be. Its outline flickers like static. Do-yun stares at it and says, "Oh, come on." Chae-won asks if that's supposed to be him. Do-yun says it looks cooler. The shadow's head tilts. Then it moves. It crosses 20 feet in 0 time. Its fist slams into Do-yun's chest before he can blink. He gets launched backward. Through the training facility's wall. Through the second wall, he crashes into the cratered training room he just left. Chae-won's eyes go wide. He ducks just as the shadow sweeps a kick at his head. Air cracks where the leg passed. Jae-won rolls and says, "Okay, it has the speed too." Do-yun bursts back through the hole, shaking off dust. His ribs already healed. He says it's got the full multiplier. 10,000 times. And it doesn't pull punches. The shadow cocks its head again. Then it shifts its stance. Chae-won recognizes it immediately. It's the same stance he used during their fight. The open palm guard and the wide feet. The shadow copied his technique. Jae-won says it's not just Do-yun's stats. It's his entire skill list. Every trick he's ever copied. The shadow flexes its fingers. Black lightning crackles between them. Fire flickers around its fist. Ice crystals form on its shoulder. It's pulling from everything Jae-won has stored. Do-yun says that's not fair. Jae-won says it's a perfect clone with both their abilities, and it's staring at them like it knows exactly what they'll do. The shadow darts left, then right. It's so fast it leaves after images. Do-yun throws a punch. It sidesteps. Chae-won hurls a fireball. It catches it, extinguishes it with ice, then throws the ice back as a spear. Chae-won barely dodges. Do-yun charges again. The shadow matches his speed and they trade blows mid-air. Each impact shatters windows for blocks. Street lamps bend. Cars get shoved sideways. Nobody can see them. They're just blurs. But Jae-won watches the pattern. It counters every move, every punch, every kick. It knows Do-yun's fighting style. And it knows Jae-won's skills. It's like the Demon Lord downloaded a perfect copy of both of them and hit play. Do-yun gets thrown again. He leaves a trench in the asphalt. Chae-won rushes in and tries a nerve strike. The shadow blocks it with an identical strike. Their forearms hit. Chae-won feels his own technique bounce back at him. The shadow mimics the move in real time, perfectly. Then it grabs Chae-won's wrist, spins him, slams him into the ground hard. Chae-won coughs. He looks up at Do-yun and says they can't beat it like this. Every trick they use, it learns instantly. Do-yun stands up, wipes blood from his mouth, asks if there's one thing it can't copy. Chae-won looks at the shadow, at its smooth black surface. Then his eyes light up. He says there is one thing, its own nature. Chae-won takes a deep breath, focuses his mana sense on the shadow. He can feel its mana pattern, a twisted mirror of Do-yun's stats and his skill list. But there's something else underneath. The shadow isn't just a copy, it's a mimic. It has a mimicry ability of its own, the thing that lets it absorb and use new skills. Jae-won says watch this. He activates his glitch, skill mimicry, but instead of copying Do-yun, or the Demon Lord, he targets that mimicry itself. He copies the shadow's ability to copy, and a feedback loop starts. The shadow freezes. Its head twitches. It tries to copy Jae-won's copy, but that just feeds back into Jae-won, who copies the copy of the copy. The loop spirals. The shadow's outline stutters. Its movements become jerky, disjointed, like a glitched-out video file. Jae-won holds his head and says, "This feels really weird." Do-yun sees his opening. He says, "Figure it out later." Then he vanishes, appears behind the shadow, and swings a punch with every ounce of 10,000 times strength. The shadow tries to turn, tries to block, but its body is still caught in the recursion. Jae-won's copy loop is scrambling its reflexes. Do-yun's fist connects with the back of its skull. The impact sends a shockwave that cracks every window for 3 blocks. The shadow doesn't go flying. It shatters. Cracks spread from the point of impact, through its shoulders, down its spine. Jae-won adds his own strike, a focused mana jab right into the center of the fracture, and the combined blow blows the clone apart. Pieces of black shadow spray across the street. They dissolve into mist. The ground is covered in dark shards, but there's no blood, no body, just a pile of fading static. Do-yun stands over it, breathing hard, his knuckles smoking. Jae-won lets go of the loop and stumbles. He says that's one way to beat yourself. Do-yun says he's got a headache. Then a voice echoes. It doesn't come from the shadow, it comes from the gate. Deep, resonant, every syllable heavy with ancient amusement. It says, "Impressive, but I have seen all your tricks." The black gate flickers, starts to shrink. Do-yun looks at it. His jaw tightens. The voice doesn't say anything else, just leaves that line hanging. Jae-won says the Demon Lord was watching. Do-yun says he was recording. Every move they just used. Every strategy. Every weakness. The gate snaps shut. The sky is empty again. Silence. Just the distant sound of sirens starting up. Do-yun looks at Jae-won. He says they're out of time. The Demon Lord's cage just got closer to finished, and he knows exactly how they fight. Jae-won pulls his glove tighter over his gray hand. The cracks have spread another inch. He says then they need to move faster. Do-yun nods. He turns toward the street. He says the Yongsan hub is still there. The ledgers, the recruits, they're not stopping. They're just getting started. Guess who just volunteered for overtime? Koo doesn't radio ahead. He just walks up to the safe house door at 2 in the morning and knocks 3 times. The building is an old brick walk-up near Muledong. 4 stories. Windows blacked out with mana-tinted film. Do-yun's crew has been here exactly 7 hours. Long enough to patch wounds. Not long enough to sleep. Jae-won is at the window before the 3rd knock lands. He's already got a fireball half-formed in his palm. Do-yun waves him down. He recognizes the mana signature. Low, deliberate, guarded. Our boy pulls the door open, and there he is. Koo Min-suk, stone-faced, hands empty at his sides. He's not wearing his inspector's coat, just a dark jacket, no insignia, no recording devices visible. Do-yun doesn't invite him in. He just folds his arms and asks what he wants. Koo says he wants to help. Silence. Jae-won's fireball is still crackling behind the curtain. Seo-jin appears at the top of the stairs with his tablet raised. Koo doesn't blink. He looks Do-yun dead in the eye and says the committee is compromised. He says he found a spy. He says it goes higher than anyone thought. He's about to do something stupid. But for once, the stupid thing is letting the man in. He steps aside. Koo walks through and stands in the middle of the bare room. Ha-eun is propped up on a cot in the corner, bandages still fresh, face pale. She watches him the way a healer watches a patient about to crash. Koo doesn't sit. He tells them everything fast. 6 days ago, he intercepted a mana spike report that never reached the main database. It traced directly to a frequency the Demon Lord's forces used during the Ilsan ambush. Someone inside the association deleted it. Not a clerk, not a junior analyst. Someone with admin clearance. Koo says he tracked the deletion trail to a burner terminal in the sub-basement. The terminal went dark before he could trace it further. But he pulled one name off a residual log. Tae-min, the team leader, the S-rank hunter who was supposed to be missing. Do-yun's jaw tightens. Tae-min was one of the 3 hunters chained to those stone slabs. They rescued him. They left him with the medics. Seo-jin's fingers fly across his tablet. He pulls up Tae-min's association file. The employment record is clean. The gate history is clean, but the mana resonance logs from last month show a gap. 3 days of no activity, right before the red gate opened in the city center. So-yin says it's possible Taemin was turned before the Ilsan mission. He says the demon lord might have had eyes on them the whole time. Do-yun asks why Koo is telling them this instead of filing a report. Koo says because the report would get him killed. He says the spy knows he's been digging. His apartment was broken into this morning. Nothing stolen, just a message left on his bed. A single black feather. The kind that dissolved off the shadow clone's shoulder. Do-yun remembers the voice from the gate. I have seen all your tricks. He realizes the demon lord wasn't just recording their fight. He was watching the whole network. Every ally, every safe house, every weakness. Chaewon pulls his glove tighter. Gray cracks on his hand are pulsing. He says they need to move. Koo says it's too late. The building goes silent. Then Ha-eun sits upright. Her staff is already glowing. She says something is coming. Seo-jin's tablet starts pinging. Not one signal, not 2, 30, 50, 100. Every one of them is a mana signature with a demonic tag. Chaewon looks out the window. The street lamps are flickering. Shadows stretch wrong across the pavement. And at the end of the block, a black gate is opening. It's bigger than the last one, maybe 50 feet across. A rectangular wound in the air. And through it walks Meng Hyun-soo. His armor is different. It's denser, fused plates of bone and black steel. There's no gem in his chest this time. The demon lord rebuilt him without the weak spot. Behind him march rows of elite demons. 7 foot tall, 6 limbs each. Blades where hands should be. Koo turns to Do-yun and says he didn't lead them here. Do-yun believes him. The betrayal hasn't happened yet. It starts now. Koo's eyes flicker. Pupils dilate. Then the whites fill with black smoke. His body jerks. His hand snaps to his own throat. And a voice that isn't his comes out. Kneel. Koo lunges at Do-yun. His fist is coated in condensed mana. He's not pulling punches. The first blow cracks the floorboards. Do-yun catches his wrist and spins him into the wall. He's not trying to hurt him. He's trying to buy time. Koo's mouth twists into a grin that doesn't belong on his face. Then he swings again. Chaewon is already moving. He grabs Ha-eun's cot and hauls it toward the back door. Seo-jin is shouting into his phone. He's calling in every marker he's got, but the association lines are dead. The spy must have cut comms. Do-yun dodges Koo's third strike and locks his arms behind his back. He tells him to fight it. Koo's body convulses. For half a second, his eyes clear. He gasps out that he's sorry, that he didn't know the feather was a trigger, that they need to run. Then the smoke floods back. His body snaps into a spin. His knee catches Do-yun in the ribs. It doesn't hurt, but it gives him space. Space Koo uses to raise both palms toward the window. A beam of compressed mana punches through the glass and hits the street outside. It's a signal. The demons charge. Meng Hyun-soo raises one bone-plated arm and points at the safe house. His voice carries through the walls like it's coming from inside their own skulls. Bring me the healer. The Lord wants her alive. Do-yun's blood goes cold. He looks at Ha-eun. She's barely conscious. Her staff is flickering. She's trying to raise a barrier. The windows explode. Demon limbs crash through the brickwork. Chaewon is already fighting. He's copying their movements, catching blades with forged ice claws, ripping through exoskeletons with borrowed strength. But every demon he kills is replaced by 2 more. The street is a tide of black chitin and glowing eyes. Seo-jin fires a concussive blast from his tablet that clears the living room. It buys them 3 seconds. He yells that the back exit is blocked. There's a second gate opened in the alley. Do-yun tightens his grip on Koo. He asks where the nearest breach point is. Koo, still fighting the control, chokes out one word. Roof. Do-yun makes a decision. He hurls Koo through the stairwell door. It's not gentle. The inspector crashes through drywall and lands on the second-floor landing. But he's alive. And he's closer to escape. Do-yun turns to Jaewon. He says they're getting Ha-eun out. Now. No arguments. Chaewon doesn't argue. He just grabs Ha-eun's cot and sprints for the stairs. Seo-jin is right behind him. His tablet is screaming warnings. Mana levels in the area are spiking past S-rank thresholds. The building won't hold. Do-yun is the last one out of the living room. He turns just in time to see Meng Hyun-soo enter through the front wall. He doesn't use the door. He just walks through brick and plaster like it's fog. The undead king is 15 feet tall now. He's been upgraded. 4 arms, each holding a different weapon. A bone greatsword, a flail made of fused vertebrae, a spear dripping black ichor, and a shield that pulses with the same dampening energy from Ilsan. Do-yun feels his speed drop. Not all the way to 100 times, but enough. Maybe 500. Mang swings the greatsword. Do-yun ducks. The blade shears through 3 support beams. The ceiling starts to buckle. Our boy knows he can't fight here, not with Ha-un still in the building. So he launches himself backward through the stairwell. He takes the stairs 5 at a time. His feet barely touch the steps. Below him, Jae-won is blasting through the roof access hatch. Seo-jin is carrying Ha-un over his shoulder. Her staff clatters down the steps behind them. Do-yun catches it. The wood is warm. It's still got her healing aura woven into the grain. He slings it over his back and keeps climbing. Meng Hyun-soo is right behind him. His footsteps shake the whole building. Floors collapse behind them. The 3rd story caves in. Then the 2nd. The safe house is folding like a house of cards. Chae-won reaches the roof first. He pulls Ha-un up onto the gravel. So-jin scrambles behind him. Koo is already there, collapsed by the edge, still twitching. Do-yun comes through the hatch just as the building gives way. The entire structure implodes. Brick and steel crash into the basement. Dust erupts into the night sky. Do-yun stands on the edge of the rubble. Meng Hyun-soo rises from the wreckage. Not a scratch on him. The dampening shield is still active. The demons are swarming the surrounding buildings. Civilians are screaming. Sirens are finally starting up somewhere in the distance. But they won't arrive in time. Do-yun looks at Ha-un. She's not moving. Her breathing is shallow. The bandages are soaked through. She's bleeding again. The escape from the collapse must have torn something. Seo-jin presses his fingers to her neck. His face goes pale. He says she needs a hospital. Chae-won says there's no hospital within 50 blocks that isn't already overrun. Koo, on his hands and knees, coughs out something black. Smoke. Thick and oily. He's purging the demon lord's control. He looks up at Do-yun and says there's an underground clinic. A resistance contact, 3 blocks south. He says he can mark it on Seo-jin's tablet. But he won't make it there himself. He tells them to leave him. Do-yun grabs Koo by the jacket and hauls him upright. He says nobody gets left. He says they've already lost too much trying to keep him alive. Koo stares at him. The stone-faced inspector looks confused, like he doesn't understand why Do-yun isn't just abandoning him. Chae-won says they can debate it after they survive the next 80 seconds. Meng Hyun-soo is charging up the debris pile. His 4 weapons are glowing. His shield is humming. The demons are closing from all sides. Do-yun makes a choice. He tells Jae-won to take Ha-un and So-jin and run for the clinic. He says he'll hold the undead king here. Chae-won says that's insane. It's a trap. It's always been a trap. Do-yun says he knows. That's why he's springing it. He hands Jae-won Ha-un's staff. He says to keep it safe. He says she'll need it when she wakes up. Chae-won doesn't move. Do-yun tells him to go. Now. Chae-won's jaw works. Then he nods. He picks Ha-un up in both arms. So-jin grabs Koo and drags him toward the fire escape. The demons chase them. Do-yun steps into their path. He flares his mana. Every stat. Every last point of that 10,000 times multiplier. The air around him distorts. The gravel on the roof liquefies under the pressure. Meng Hyun-soo stops. The demon horde stops. They all stare at him. The real Do-yun. Not the shadow. Not the imitation. The genuine article. And for the first time since the gate opened, Meng looks uncertain. Do-yun says nothing. He just raises one fist, and the world turns white. He throws a punch that doesn't just crack the air. It tears it. The shockwave levels the entire block. It throws the demons back like leaves in a hurricane. It hits Meng Hyun-soo square in the chest and sends him crashing through 4 buildings. Do-yun doesn't watch. He turns and runs. Behind him, the street is gone. Nothing left but a trench 40 feet wide and a cloud of dust that won't settle for hours. He catches up with Jae-won 3 blocks south. They reach the clinic. A basement door with a red handprint painted on the frame. Ha-un is unconscious. Her breathing is barely there. Koo is slumped against the wall. His eyes are clear now. No smoke. No control. Just exhaustion and guilt. He looks at Do-yun and says they need to talk. Do-yun says they will. But first he wants to know everything. The spy. The feather. The next target. Koo reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded piece of paper. He says he was supposed to deliver this to the demon lord tonight. He says he fought it. He managed to write something else. He hands Do-yun the paper. It's smeared with blood. The handwriting is shaky, but the message is clear. 3 lines. The next gate is a trap. It opens in 48 hours. And if you enter, you won't come back. Do-yun looks at the message, then at the unconscious healer bleeding through her bandages, then at the gray cracks climbing Jae-won's arm. He folds the paper, slides it into his jacket, and tells Koo to rest. They're going to need everyone for what comes next. Ji-woo's fingers fly across the keyboard in the back of the clinic. 3 monitors glow in the dark room. She's already inside the prison's security mainframe before Do-yun even finishes lacing his boots. Do-yun pulls his hood up and checks the map she uploaded to his phone. The facility sits 40 kilometers outside Seoul. Concrete walls, mana sensor grids, rotating patrols every 90 seconds. Ji-woo says she can loop the cameras for exactly 11 minutes before the system flags the anomaly. Do-yun asks if that's enough time. He doesn't look up from her screen. She tells him it'll have to be. Koo is sitting on a cot in the corner with his head in his hand. He hasn't said much since they pulled him out of the rubble. The black veins on his neck have faded to faint gray lines, but his eyes keep darting to the door, like he expects another feather to drop through the ceiling. Do-yun tells him to stay put. Koo looks up and says he should be the one going in. He says it's his mess. Do-yun shakes his head and says Koo's face is still on every association wanted feed from here to Busan. Jae-won is sharpening a knife by the window. He doesn't say anything. He just watches Do-yun with those black eyes and gives a small nod. Ha-eun is still unconscious on the clinic bed. Her bandages are fresh. The resistance medic said she wouldn't pull through, but she's not waking up anytime soon. Do-yun pauses by her bed. He straightens the yellow ribbon in her hair. Then he turns and walks out the door. The clinic door closes behind him with a soft click. Outside, the night is cold and quiet. He moves. 10,000 times normal speed. The city blurs around him. Street lights smear into long golden streaks. He clears 40 kilometers in under a minute. The prison looms ahead. It's a brutalist block of gray concrete surrounded by 3 layers of fencing. Watchtowers at all 4 corners. Mana sensor pylons every 50 meters. Ji-woo's voice crackles in his earpiece. She says the first camera cycle starts in 10 seconds. Do-yun doesn't wait. He scales the outer fence in 2 seconds flat. His fingers find the gaps in the chain link like they've been doing this for years. Second fence is electrified. Ji-woo kills the current on his mark. He vaults it before the sparks even finish dying. The third fence has razor wire at the top. He rips through it with one hand and drops silently onto the inner compound. 2 guards patrol the east wall. Their flashlight beams sweep across the concrete. Do-yun waits until the lights cross. Then he moves between them so fast, neither blinks. He reaches the main building. A solid steel door with a biometric scanner. Ji-woo spoofs the scanner with a ghost print from a guard who clocked out 3 hours ago. The door hisses open. Do-yun slips inside. The prison interior is all fluorescent lights and gray corridors. Every surface smells like bleach and old sweat. Ji-woo guides him through the hallways. Left at the first junction. Straight past the mess hall. Down a stairwell that smells like rust. The maximum security wing is 3 levels underground. No windows. No natural light. Just concrete and steel and the hum of mana-dampening generators. Koo's cell is at the end of the longest corridor. Number 47. The number on his ticket from the testing center. Do-yun almost laughs. Of course it is. Reaches the cell door. Solid mana-reinforced steel. 3 inches thick. Locked with a 13-digit rotating code that changes every 60 seconds. Ji-woo says she needs 2 minutes to crack it. Do-yun says he'll do it faster. He plants his feet, grabs the edge of the door with both hands, and pulls. The steel screams. Bolts shear off. The frame warps. The door comes free with a sound like a thunderclap. Do-yun tosses it aside like it weighs nothing. Koo is inside, sitting on the floor. His wrists are cuffed with mana suppression bands. His face is bruised. Someone worked him over pretty good, but he's alive. He stares at Do-yun, then at the torn doorframe. He says Do-yun really doesn't do subtle. Do-yun tells him subtle isn't in the job description. He snaps the suppression cuffs off Koo's wrists with a flick of his fingers. Koo flexes his hands and winces. He says they've been interrogating him for 12 hours, trying to get him to admit he was working with the Phantom. Do-yun asks if he talked. Koo gives him a flat look and says he's still breathing, isn't he? Before Do-yun can reply, footsteps echo down the corridor. Heavy boots. A lot of them. Ji-woo's voice cuts through the earpiece. She says a silent alarm tripped. She doesn't know how. The door coming off its hinges probably triggered a pressure sensor. 6 guards are heading their way. armed with mana rifles and stun batons. Do-yun tells Koo to stay behind him. Koo says he can fight. Do-yun glances at the bruises on his face and the way he's favoring his left side. He tells Koo to sit this one out. The guards round the corner. They see Do-yun. They see the torn door. One of them reaches for his radio. Do-yun moves. Not at full speed. He doesn't need full speed for this. He crosses the corridor in a blur. His palm strikes the first guard's chest. The man folds. Do-yun spins and catches the second guard's rifle barrel, crushing it in his grip. The guard stares at the wrecked weapon in disbelief. Do-yun taps him on the forehead, just hard enough to put him to sleep. The third guard swings a stun baton at his head. Do-yun catches it between two fingers. He gently removes it from the guard's hand, sets it on the floor, then flicks the guard's forehead. Two more drop before they even raise their weapons. The last guard stands frozen. His radio crackles with static. Someone on the other end is asking for a status report. Do-yun takes the radio. He presses the transmit button. In a perfectly calm voice, he says everything's fine. Then he crushes the radio into dust and knocks out the last guard with a light chop to the neck. Koo limps out of the cell. He looks at the pile of unconscious guards, then at Do-yun. He says he's never seen anyone move like that. Do-yun shrugs and says he's been practicing. Ji-woo's voice comes through the earpiece. She says they've got 4 minutes before the next patrol cycle, maybe less. The association is already scrambling a response team. Do-yun asks Koo if there's an exit. Koo says there's a sewage tunnel. Old maintenance access runs under the east wall and comes out near a drainage canal half a kilometer away. Do-yun tells him to lead the way. They move fast. Koo's limping slows them down. But Do-yun doesn't complain. He just matches Koo's pace and keeps his eyes on the corridor behind them. The sewage tunnel is exactly as pleasant as it sounds. Dark. Wet. Smelling like everything humanity has ever flushed down a drain. Koo drops through a maintenance hatch first. Do-yun follows. The tunnel is narrow, barely wide enough for a grown man to walk through without scraping his shoulders. Water drips from the ceiling. Something scurries past Do-yun's foot. He decides he doesn't want to know what it was. They walk in silence for a while. The only sounds are their footsteps splashing through the shallow water. Then Koo speaks. His voice is quiet, hollow. He says he's sorry. Do-yun doesn't answer. Koo says he should have fought harder. When the Demon Lord's control took hold in the safe house, when his own body turned against his friends, he says he felt everything happening. Every punch he threw at Do-yun. Every second Ha-un was bleeding while he stood there with black smoke in his eyes. He couldn't stop it. But he could see it all. Do-yun keeps walking. Koo says he wrote that note while the control was fading. While the Demon Lord's voice was still echoing inside his skull, he says he used the last shred of his own will to put those words on paper. Because Do-yun deserved to know the truth. Do-yun stops walking. He turns to look at Koo. The stone-faced inspector looks broken. Not physically. The bruises and the limp will heal. But there's something behind his eyes that Do-yun recognizes. Guilt. The heavy kind. The kind that sits in your chest like a cold stone and never really goes away. Do-yun tells him it wasn't his fault. Koo shakes his head. He says he should have seen it coming. The feather. Tae-min. All of it. He says the Demon Lord's been planning this for months. Maybe longer. Do-yun asks what the World Gate is. Koo takes a deep breath. His voice drops even lower. He says it's the endgame. The Demon Lord isn't just trying to open gates anymore. He's trying to merge the two dimensions permanently. Earth and the demon realm. One reality, no barriers, no gates to close. Just endless hell pouring into every city on the planet. Do-yun stares at him. Koo says the World Gate needs a massive amount of mana to open. More than 1,000 ordinary gates combined. The Demon Lord has been harvesting it for years. From hunters, from demons, from every battle fought on either side of the portals. Every death feeds the mechanism. Do-yun asks how long they have. Koo says the note wasn't a guess. 48 hours. Maybe less now. Ji-woo's voice cuts in. She says she's been listening on the earpiece. She wants to know if Koo is sure about the timeline. Koo says he saw the plans. The Demon Lord showed them to him when he was under control. A display of power. A way to break his spirit. It almost worked. Do-yun asks where the World Gate opens. Koo says that's the worst part. He says the Demon Lord doesn't need to pick a location. The World Gate opens everywhere at once. Every existing gate becomes a door. Every dormant portal reactivates. The whole planet becomes a battlefield in the span of a single breath. Do-yun doesn't say anything for a long moment. The water drips. The rats scurry. Then Do-yun asks if there's a way to stop it. Koo says there's one, The World Gate needs an anchor, a central focal point. If they can find it and destroy it before the 48 hours are up, the merge collapses. Do-yun nods slowly and says, then that's what they'll do. Koo stares at him like he's just said they'll lasso the moon. He says it won't be easy. Do-yun says nothing worth doing ever is. They reach the end of the tunnel. A rusted ladder leads up to a grate. Moonlight filters through the gaps. Do-yun climbs first and pushes the grate open with one hand. Cold night air rushes in. He pulls himself onto the muddy bank of a drainage canal. Koo climbs out behind him. In the distance, sirens wail. The prison is lit up like a stadium. Searchlights sweep across the compound. They know someone broke out. They just don't know where he went. Do-yun and Koo crouch in the shadow of an overpass. Ji-woo says an association response team is 12 minutes out. She's scrambling their tracking with a ghost signal, bouncing off a cell tower in Incheon. It'll buy them maybe an hour. Do-yun tells her to keep it running. He pulls out his phone and sends a message to Jae-won. 4 words. Got him. Coming back. Jae-won replies almost instantly. He says the clinic is still secure. Ha-eun's vitals are stable. The medic gave her another dose of healing potion. She's murmuring in her sleep. Something about picnics. Something about the Han River. Do-yun stares at the message for a moment. Then he pockets the phone. Koo asks what happens now. Do-yun stands up and offers Koo his hand. He says now they go back. They regroup. They figure out where the anchor is, and then they destroy it. Koo takes his hand and gets to his feet. He says it won't be that simple. Do-yun smiles. The same cocky grin he had when he walked into his first gate. He says it never is. They move along the canal, 2 figures in the dark, one limping, one carrying the weight of a 10,000 times multiplier, and a promise to a girl with a yellow ribbon who told him strength without heart is empty. Behind them, the prison alarms keep screaming. The association scrambles its hunters. The search grids expand. But Do-yun and Koo are already gone, vanished into the soul night. Temporary safety. No celebration. Just a window of time before the next gate opens and the demon lord tries to end the world. The clinic door slides shut behind them with a soft pneumatic hiss. Ji-woo is already waiting inside, perched on a stool with a tablet in one hand and an energy drink in the other. The place smells like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Ha-eun lies on a cot in the corner, breathing steady, color back in her cheeks. A healing potion drip hangs from a metal stand beside her. Do-yun's shoulders drop half an inch when he sees her. Koo limps to a chair and collapses into it, like a man who's been running for 3 days straight. Ji-woo doesn't bother with greetings. She tosses the tablet onto the counter and says she's been working on something while they were playing Prison Break. On the screen is a schematic of a device that looks like a metal bracelet, with 17 rune slots. She calls it the Dampener, version 0.3. Still a prototype, but functional enough to test. She explains the concept in 5 rapid sentences, while Do-yun peels off his torn hoodie. The dampener creates a spherical zone about 50 meters wide. Inside that zone, all hunters' stats get equalized to the same baseline. Doesn't matter if you're an F rank or an S rank. Doesn't matter if you've got a glitch or a blessing or a demonic pact. Inside the bubble, everyone's on the same playing field. Do-yun stares at the schematic. His left eye twitches. The thing that always happens when he's about to do something colossally stupid. But this time it's not stupidity. It's curiosity. He asks what the catch is. Ji-woo grins like a cat with a secret. She says the catch is beautiful. The dampener doesn't distinguish between friend and foe. It equalizes everyone inside the zone. So if Do-yun steps into the bubble, his 10,000 times multiplier drops to baseline. No super speed. No world-shattering punches. Just his raw, unmultiplied body against whatever monster they're facing. Jae-won leans against the wall with his arms crossed. His gray hand flexes inside its glove. The cracks have spread another centimeter since this morning. He asks if the dampener also shuts down skill mimicry. Ji-woo nods. Every glitch, every borrowed ability, every demonic gift. All of it gone for as long as the zone is active. Koo lifts his head from the chair. His voice is hoarse from the interrogation, but his mind is sharp as ever. He says that's not a weakness. That's a strategy. The Demon Lord's whole plan relies on overwhelming force. If they can force him into a fight where his power doesn't matter, where his nullification field is pointless, they might actually have a shot. Do-yun asks how long the prototype can hold. Ji-woo winces and says that's the problem. Right now, maybe 3 minutes, maybe less. The runes overheat fast. She's got a cooling array sketched out, but she needs materials she doesn't have. Military-grade mana conduits, thermal dissipation crystals, stuff that's locked up in association vaults or black market warehouses. Do-yun says they'll get her what she needs. No hesitation. Just a flat statement of fact. Ji-woo blinks at him and says he's either incredibly confident or incredibly stupid. Our boy just shrugs and says the line between those two things is pretty thin anyway. She laughs. First real laugh any of them have heard in days. She pushes off her stool and says there's one more thing they need to test. She pulls a second bracelet out of her bag. This one's simpler. No runes. Just a basic receiver linked to the prototype. She tosses it to Jae-won and tells him to put it on. He catches it with his good hand and raises an eyebrow. She says if they're going to use the dampener in combat, they need to know how their bodies react under equalized conditions. No stats, no glitches, just skill and instinct. Jae-won looks at Do-yun. Do-yun looks at Jae-won. The tension between them crackles like static before a lightning strike. Then Do-yun grins that same cocky grin and asks if he's ready to get humiliated twice in 1 week. Jae-won says he's been waiting for a rematch since the training facility. He straps the bracelet onto his wrist and feels a faint hum run through his bone. Do-yun takes the dampener prototype from Ji-woo and slides it onto his own arm. It's heavier than it looks. The metal is cold against his skin. 5 seconds later, a pulse ripples outward from the device. The air inside the clinic changes. It's subtle at first, a slight pressure in the ears, faint taste of copper on the tongue. Then the weight hits. Do-yun's knees almost buckle. His 10,000 times multiplier vanishes like a candle snuffed out. His body feels sluggish, ordinary, human. He's still fit, still trained. But the overwhelming power that's been humming through his veins since the glitch is just gone. Jae-won feels it too. His gray hand stops pulsing. The black veins go still. For the first time in weeks, the spread pauses. He flexes his fingers and stares at them like they belong to someone else. Ji-woo says the zone is active. 50-meter radius. All stats equalized. She taps her tablet, and a timer appears on the wall monitor. 3 minutes. Starting now, Do-yun and Jae-won circle each other in the cramped clinic space. Koo drags his chair back against the wall to give them room. The medic who's been watching Ha-eun edges into the corner with wide eyes. Do-yun throws the first punch. It's fast. Not 10,000 times fast, but human fast. The kind of speed that comes from years of muscle memory and gait survival. Jae-won sidesteps and counters with a low kick aimed at Do-yun's knee. Do-yun hops over it and snaps a jab toward Jae-won's ribs. Jae-won blocks it with his forearm. The impact stings. Real pain. Not the distant thud of a superhuman body shrugging off damage. They both feel every hit now. It's exhilarating. Do-yun's grin stretches wider. He says this is actually fun. Jae-won says he's got a weird definition of fun. Then Jae-won lunges. Not with raw power, with technique. A combination he copied from an A-rank brawler 3 months ago. Left hook, right cross, spinning elbow. Do-yun ducks the hook, weaves inside the cross, and catches the elbow against his palm. They're evenly matched now, perfectly balanced. No stat advantage, no glitch tricks. Just two fighters trying to read each other's moves. Do-yun sweeps Jae-won's legs. Jae-won goes down but rolls through it and springs back up. He doesn't copy Do-yun's moves this time. Can't copy them without his glitch, so he improvises. He throws a feint high and drops low for a tackle. Do-yun sees it coming and sidesteps, but Jae-won adjusts mid-motion and grabs Do-yun's ankle. That wasn't a copied move. That was pure instinct. Do-yun hits the floor. Jae-won scrambles to get on top. Do-yun bucks him off and they both scramble to their feet. The monitor beeps. 2 minutes left. Ji-woo watches with her chin propped on her fist and says they're actually not terrible. Koo mutters that they fight like drunk dock workers, but there's a hint of respect in his voice. Do-yun and Jae-won go again. This time they don't compete. They cooperate. They flow around each other. Do-yun throws a punch, and Jae-won ducks under it to strike at the same target from a different angle. Jae-won takes a step back, and Do-yun uses his shoulder as a springboard for a kick. It's sloppy at first. They stumble over each other's footwork and nearly collide twice. But the rhythm starts to click. By the second minute, they're not fighting each other anymore. They're fighting an invisible opponent. A tag team combo built from scratch inside the dampener's zone. Do-yun distracts. Jae-won flanks. Do-yun opens a gap, and Jae-won exploits it before the enemy can recover. The movements aren't rehearsed. They're reactive, communicated through glances and tiny shifts in posture. The kind of nonverbal language that only develops between fighters who trust each other, or at least respect each other enough to not let the other die. Ji-woo says they've just invented something new. She's already sketching notes on her tablet. She calls it tandem combat. Equalized base. No powers, just synchronized attack patterns that overwhelm a single target through constant pressure. Ku says it won't work against the Demon Lord. Jiwoo agrees. Not yet. But with the full dampener active and a team of equalized hunters fighting in sync, they might be able to survive long enough to destroy the anchor. Timer hits 0. The dampener deactivates with a soft chime. Do-yun's power floods back into him like water breaking through a dam. 10,000 times speed. 10,000 times strength. The weight that lifted from his muscles drops back down. But something's different. He feels more aware of his body now. More in control. Like the equalized spar stripped away the noise and left only the signal. Chaewon flexes his gray hand. The cracks haven't spread any further during the test. That's the first good news he's had in a week. He says the dampener might actually slow the Demon Lord's corruption. Jiwoo's eyes light up, and she scribbles another note. Do-yun walks over to Ha-eun's cot. She's still sleeping. The healing potion drip continues its steady rhythm. Her yellow ribbon is frayed at the edges, but still tied firmly in her hair. He brushes a strand of hair away from her face and doesn't say anything. Ku watches the gesture and looks away. Some things are too private for words. Then Jiwoo's tablet pings. Not a gentle notification ping, a sharp, urgent alarm that makes everyone in the room tense up. Her face goes pale as she reads the screen. She says it's a distress call. Coded frequency. Midnight Guild. They're trapped inside an S-level gate, and they've been fighting for 18 hours straight. Do-yun is already reaching for his hoodie and asks where. Jiwoo says the gate opened in Paju, near the border. The association hasn't responded because the gate signature is masked. Someone's deliberately hiding it from the monitoring grid. Seo-jin's voice crackles through the speaker on the counter. He's been listening on a secure channel this whole time. He says Do-yun can't go. Flat and cold and final. Do-yun asks why not. Seo-jin says the Midnight Guild is a trap. The Demon Lord already knows Do-yun's moveset, already knows his speed and his fighting style. If the Demon Lord is using a guild as bait, he's got something waiting that's designed specifically to counter Do-yun. Maybe another shadow clone, maybe a stronger one this time. Do-yun says he doesn't care. Seo-jin says that's exactly what the Demon Lord is counting on, and he needs to think strategically. Do-yun turns to face the speaker. His voice is calm, but there's steel underneath. He says the Midnight Guild has 37 hunters, 37 people with families and friends and lives that don't belong to this fight. They didn't ask to be bait, and he's not going to let them die just because it's the smarter tactical choice. Seo-jin is silent for a long moment. Then he sighs and says he's going to regret this. He'll send the gate coordinates. But if Do-yun dies, Ha-eun will never forgive him. Do-yun glances at the cot, at the girl with the yellow ribbon who told him that strength without heart is empty. He says he knows. Chaewon is already checking his gear. His gray hand pulses faintly, but the spread hasn't resumed. He says he's coming. If it's a trap, Do-yun will need backup, and if the Demon Lord has another shadow clone, Chaewon's the only one who can scramble its reflexes. Do-yun nods once. Ku struggles to his feet. His bruised ribs scream in protest, but he straightens his spine. He says he's coming too. Do-yun tells him he can barely walk. Ku says he doesn't need to walk. He needs to be there to record whatever happens so the world knows the truth. Jiwoo tosses him her backup tablet, loaded with encryption and a direct link to every major news outlet on the continent. She says if he's going to be a witness, he might as well be a useful one. Ku catches it and tucks it under his arm. Do-yun looks at the room, at Jiwoo with her prototype dampener and her tired eyes, at Jae-won with his cursed hand and his stubborn refusal to quit, at Ku with his bruised body and his unshakable moral compass, at Ha-eun sleeping peacefully on the cot. He says they move in 5 minutes and asks Jiwoo if the dampener is field ready. Jiwoo says it'll hold for 90 seconds and not a second more. Do-yun says that's all the time they'll need. He grabs a fresh shirt from the supply closet, pulls it on, rolls his shoulders, and heads for the door. Night outside is cold and quiet. Somewhere in Paju, an S-level gate is bleeding demons into the countryside. Somewhere in that gate, 37 hunters are fighting for their lives. And somewhere in the shadows, the Demon Lord is watching, waiting, ready to spring his trap. Do-yun steps into the street. Chaewon falls in beside him. Ku limps behind with the tablet clutched against his chest. The dampener hums on Do-yun's wrist, ready to activate at the first sign of danger. He doesn't know what's waiting for him at the gate. He doesn't know if this is the fight that kills him. He only knows one thing for certain. He's not leaving those hunters behind. The cocky grin creeps back onto his face. He cracks his knuckles and says, "Let's go spring a trap." And they move. The air tears open. Jagged black scar splits the sky above a frozen wheat field outside Paju. Our boy Jae-won and Koo arrive at the perimeter in a blur of displaced snow. The gate itself is already bleeding frost. Ice crystals crawl across the ground in thick white veins, spreading outward from the shimmering portal. Koo tightens his grip on the tablet and says he's never seen a gate like this one. The temperature drops 15 degrees just standing 50 meters from it. Do-yun pulls his hood lower and tells Jae-won to stay close. Jae-won flexes his gray hand and nods. His breath fogs in front of his face as the cold seeps through his tactical gear. Koo hangs back near the tree line, where the temperature is still survivable. He raises the tablet and starts recording. The gate pulses once with pale blue light. Then the three of them step through. And the world on the other side is nothing but white. Wind howls across an endless frozen plain. Snow stings Do-yun's face like 1,000 tiny needles. Ice cliffs tower on both sides, glittering under a sun that gives off no warmth. The sky is gray and still. Nothing moves. Jae-won's teeth are already chattering, and he asks if anyone remembered to pack a jacket. Do-yun scans the horizon and spots tracks in the snow. Fresh tracks. Dozens of boot prints heading toward a massive ice canyon dead ahead. He says the Midnight Guild went that way. They move. Cold gets worse with every step. It's not natural cold. It's the kind that seeps into your bones and makes your thoughts feel slow and heavy. Jae-won's gray hand is actually steaming. The corruption in his veins doesn't like the cold either. Do-yun's dampener bracelet hums faintly on his wrist, but he doesn't activate it yet. He's saving those 90 seconds for the real fight. They enter the canyon. Walls of ice rise 100 feet on both sides. And that's when they find the first hunter. A woman in Midnight Guild colors, frozen solid mid-swing. Her sword is still raised. Her face is locked in a scream. Do-yun's jaw tightens. He doesn't say anything. He just keeps walking. They find 4 more hunters in the next 50 meters. All frozen. All still alive, barely. Koo kneels beside one and presses 2 fingers to the ice. He says there's a pulse underneath. They're not dead. Just trapped. Jae-won asks what kind of monster does this. The answer comes a moment later. The ground shakes. A deep, grinding groan echoes through the canyon. And from around the bend, something massive emerges. It's a giant made of ice and shadow. 30 feet tall. Its body is carved from a glacier, jagged and translucent, with veins of black mana pulsing through its torso. Its eyes are twin points of cold blue fire. In one hand, it carries a hammer made of solid frost. In the other, a chain of frozen links that drags behind it across the snow. The frost giant opens its mouth, and when it roars, the sound freezes in the air. Literally. The roar becomes a wave of ice shards that blast toward them. Do-yun shoves Jae-won and Koo behind an ice pillar. The shards shred the spot where they were standing. Jae-won says that thing makes Meng Hyun-soo look like a popsicle. The tell. He's about to do something reckless. He tells Jae-won to keep the giant distracted for 10 seconds. Then he vanishes. 10,000 times speed kicks in. Except something is wrong. The moment he accelerates, the cold wraps around him like a vice. His muscles don't respond the way they should. He's still fast, maybe 100 times faster than normal, instead of 10,000. The giant's frost aura is slowing time itself in a wide radius. Every second in this canyon stretches longer than it should. Do-yun skids to a halt behind the giant. The creature turns with surprising speed. Its burning blue eyes track him. Not fast enough to catch him, but fast enough to see him coming. The giant swings the hammer. Do-yun dodges. The impact shatters the ground where he stood, leaving a crater of ice and rock. Jae-won launches a volley of copied fire spells from behind his cover. The flames hit the giant's shoulder and barely leave a mark. The ice doesn't melt. It's too cold for fire to matter here. Koo shouts from the canyon edge that the frozen hunters are starting to crack. The ice around them is tightening. If they don't end this fast, 37 people die. Do-yun grits his teeth. He needs his full speed. But the cold is pressing in from every side. It's not just slowing his body, it's slowing his thoughts. His reactions feel like they're moving through syrup. The giant spots him again. This time it cracks the chain like a whip. The frozen links snake through the air. Do-yun tries to dodge, but the frost aura makes him a half-second too slow. The chain wraps around his ankle, and then the giant yanks. Do-yun slams into an ice wall, hard enough to send spiderweb cracks across the surface. His ribs scream in protest. The giant raises the hammer for a finishing blow, and then a voice cuts through the wind. Warm and familiar and furious. Ha-un. She's standing at the canyon entrance with her wooden staff raised. Her yellow ribbon whips in the frozen wind. Her face is still pale from the healing potion. She's not supposed to be here. She's supposed to be resting in the clinic. But she's here, and her staff is glowing with golden light. The light spreads outward in a wave. It washes over Do-yun, and the frost curse shatters. The cold that gripped his bones vanishes. His thoughts snap back to full speed. The time-slowing aura around him breaks apart like glass. Ha-un's healing magic doesn't just mend wounds, it purifies curses. And the giant's frost aura is one massive curse. Do-yun grins. He says she has the worst timing. She smiles back and tells him to stop playing around. The giant roars in frustration. Its frost aura tries to reassert itself. But Ha-un's light pushes back, keeping a bubble of warmth around Do-yun. Really fast. Sweat beads on her forehead despite the cold. She won't last more than a minute. Do-yun doesn't need more than a second. He vanishes. 10,000 times speed, full power. The giant's hammer is still descending when Do-yun appears in front of its chest. He pulls his fist back. Every muscle in his body coils. His knuckles crackle with released mana. He drives the punch straight into the center of the giant's torso. The ice doesn't crack, it vaporizes. The impact punches a hole clean through 30 feet of magical frost. Black mana veins shatter and dissolve. The giant's burning eyes flicker. Its hammer drops from nerveless fingers. The frozen chain shatters link by link, and the frost giant collapses backward. It hits the ground with a crash that shakes the whole canyon. Snow billows up in a massive white cloud. When it settles, the giant is already melting. Not into water, into nothing. Its body dissolves into pale blue mist that rises toward the gray sky. At the center of the dissipating corpse, something gleams. A frozen core. Roughly the size of a fist. Blue-white and pulsing with contained cold. Do-yun catches it before it hits the ground. The core hums in his palm. So cold it burns even through his gloves. But it's stable. Intact. Recovered. Chae-won jogs over and stares at the core with wide eyes. Black eyes, wide with disbelief. He says that thing could power the dampener for a year. Ku is already recording. The tablet captures everything. The frozen hunters start thawing. One by one, the ice around them cracks and falls away. Gasp for breath. Alive. All 37 of them. The Midnight Guild leader, a grizzled woman with a scar across her cheek, stumbles to her feet. She looks at the melting remains of the giant, then at Do-yun, and she asks who the hell he is. Do-yun tucks the frozen core into his jacket. He says he's just a guy who doesn't like traps. The guild leader stares at him for a long moment. Then she laughs. A short, exhausted laugh that turns into a cough. She says the Midnight Guild owes him a debt. Do-yun tells her to pay it by getting her people out of here. She nods and starts organizing the survivors. Chae-won kneels beside a young hunter who's still shivering too hard to stand. He presses his good hand against the kid's shoulder and tells him to breathe slow. The kid nods weakly. Ku moves through the group, checking vitals and offering quiet reassurances. He's good at this. The stone-faced inspector is actually pretty decent with people. Then a soft thud echoes from behind them. Do-yun spins around. Ha-un is on her knees in the snow. Her staff has gone dark. The golden light that surrounded her is gone. She looks up at him with tired eyes and says she might have pushed a little too hard. Then she collapses. Do-yun is at her side in an instant. He catches her before she hits the snow. Her skin is cold. Too cold. The healing light that broke the curse drained everything she had, and the frost aura still lingering in the canyon is seeping back in now that her protection is gone. Her breath comes in shallow gasps. The yellow ribbon in her hair is frozen stiff. Chae-won shouts that they need to get her out of the gate now. Do-yun cradles Ha-un against his chest. He tells her to stay with him. She doesn't respond. The dampener hums on his wrist. Unused. He never activated it. The frost giant wasn't the real trap. It was just the bait. And now, Ha-un is paying the price for his decision to walk straight into it. Ku points toward the gate exit. It's starting to flicker. The giant's death destabilized the entire dungeon. They have maybe 2 minutes before it collapses. Do-yun doesn't waste a second. He moves. 10,000 times speed carries him, Ha-un in his arms, through the canyon in a blur. Chae-won grabs Ku and follows at his own speed, pushing hard. The frozen plain rushes past. Ice cliffs crack and crumble behind them. The gate exit shimmers ahead, already shrinking. Do-yun dives through. Chae-won and Ku burst out a heartbeat later. Behind them, the gate collapses with a sound like breaking glass. The frozen wheat field is silent again. Snow falls softly, Do-yun kneels in the frost-covered grass and lays Ha-un down. Her pulse is weak, but it's there. Jae-won stumbles over and drops to his knees beside them. His gray hand is shaking. He says the clinic is too far. They won't make it in time. Koo is already on the tablet, calling Ji-woo. His voice is steady but urgent. He tells her Ha-un is down and they need extraction now. Ji-woo's voice crackles through the speaker. She says a medical gate is already opening at their coordinates. Seo-jin sent it the moment Ha-un disappeared from the clinic. Do-yun looks up. A shimmering portal opens 10 meters away. Through it, he can see the clinic's emergency bay. A healing team in white coats is already rushing toward the gate. Do-yun lifts Ha-un again. He carries her through and lays her on the waiting stretcher. The healers swarm around her. One of them presses a glowing crystal to her chest. Another attaches a mana drip to her arm. The lead healer says she's stable, but they need to work fast. Do-yun stands back and watches. His hands are trembling. Not from the cold. Jae-won puts a hand on his shoulder. He says she's tough. She'll pull through. Do-yun doesn't answer. Frozen core is still in his jacket, pulsing with cold power. They got what they came for. The Midnight Guild is safe. The dampener might actually work now. But as Do-yun watches Ha-un's pale face and the yellow ribbon that's still frozen in her hair, none of that feels like a victory. Koo finishes his recording and closes the tablet. He says the world needs to see what happened here. Not just the fight, the sacrifice. Do-yun nods slowly. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out the frozen core. Blue-white light plays across his face. He says they'd better make this worth it. Then he turns and walks toward Ji-woo's workshop. The core hums in his grip like a heartbeat. And somewhere far away, in a dimension of shadow and ice, Kang Mal-gum watches through the eyes of a melting frost giant. He smiles. Trap wasn't about killing Do-yun. It was about watching him care. And now the Demon Lord knows exactly where to strike next. Ji-woo's tablet pings 3 times in rapid succession. She looks up from the clinic workstation and pushes her glasses up her nose. The signal is faint, but unmistakable. A gate signature she hasn't seen in any association database. Not a red gate, not an S rank, not anything modern. This thing is ancient. She pulls up the spectral analysis and her eyes go wide. The mana pattern predates the first recorded gate by at least 4 centuries. And it just opened 30 kilometers outside Seoul. Do-yun is still standing by Ha-un's bed when Ji-woo bursts through the door. She doesn't bother with a greeting. She just shoves the tablet in his face and tells him to look. He scans the readings and asks what he's looking at. Ji-woo says it's a trial gate, sealed for centuries. Only one person can enter. And the mana signature matches the frozen core he pulled out of the frost giant. Do-yun's jaw tightens. He asks if this is another trap. Ji-woo shakes her head. The energy is too old for that. This gate was built long before Kang Mal-gum ever crawled out of the demon realm. It's something else entirely. Something older. She zooms in on a rune pattern carved into the gate's outer membrane. The symbols aren't demonic. They're not human either. They predate both. Ji-woo says the gate is a test, a proving ground. Whoever built it wanted to screen candidates for something, and the frozen core Do-yun is carrying is the key. He pulls the core out of his jacket. It pulses in his palm like a heartbeat. Blue-white light plays across his knuckles. He asks what happens if he passes. Ji-woo's finger traces a line of ancient text on the screen. She translates it slowly. The reward is something called pure essence. A primordial mana concentrate, unprocessed, unfiltered, raw power that existed before the system itself. If they feed it into the dampener, it could extend the duration from 90 seconds to something real, maybe permanent. Do-yun stares at the core. He thinks about Ha-un lying unconscious in the next room. He thinks about the yellow ribbon frozen stiff in her hair. He thinks about Kang Mal-gum smiling through the eyes of a melting frost giant. And he pockets the core and tells Ji-woo to send him the coordinates. Jae-won steps into the doorway with his arms crossed. His gray hand is wrapped in fresh bandages. The cracks haven't spread since the frost gate, but they haven't receded either. He asks if Do-yun is really going alone. Do-yun says the gate only takes one. Jae-won's black eyes study him for a long moment, and he says, Do-yun better not die in there. They've got a demon lord to deal with, and he didn't sign up to carry this fight solo. Do-yun grins. He tells Jae-won to keep an eye on Ha-un while he's gone. And if anything happens, call Seo-jin. Jae-won nods once. Koo appears behind him with his tablet already recording. He says he'll document everything from outside the gate. Whatever Do-yun finds in there, the world needs to see it. Do-yun takes one last look at Ha-un through the doorway. Her chest rises and falls slowly. Healers have stabilized her, but she's still pale, still fragile. He turns away before the weight in his chest can slow him down. Then he moves. The trip takes 11 seconds at full speed. Jiwoo's coordinates lead him to a hillside deep in the mountains. No roads, no trails, just ancient pine trees and moss-covered stone. And there, embedded in the hillside like a wound that never healed, is the gate. It doesn't look like any gate Do-yun has ever seen. It's not a jagged tear in reality or a clean black rectangle. This one is a perfect circle of gray stone set into the earth. Runes spiral across its surface in concentric rings. They glow faintly blue, the same blue as the frozen core. The air around it hums with pressure. Like the whole mountain is holding its breath. Do-yun walks up to the stone circle and presses his palm against it. The surface is cold. Not frost giant cold. Something deeper, something that hasn't felt warmth in centuries. The frozen core in his jacket pulses harder. It knows where it is. Do-yun pulls it out and holds it toward the gate. The runes flare bright. The stone circle splits down the middle. It opens like an eye. Behind it is nothing but swirling silver mist. No landscape, no dungeon chamber, just mist and silence. Do-yun steps through. The mist swallows him whole. For a long moment there is nothing. No sound. No light, no sensation of ground beneath his feet. He's floating in a void so complete that even his 10,000 times perception can't find a reference point. Then the mist parts, and he's standing in a hospital room. Not the clinic, somewhere else. The walls are sterile white, machines beep softly, and in the bed, connected to a dozen tubes and monitors, is Ha-eun. She looks older. Her hair is still tied with a yellow ribbon, but it's faded now, worn thin by years of wear. Her eyes are closed. Her breathing is shallow. A doctor stands beside the bed with a clipboard. He's speaking to someone. Do-yun turns and sees himself. An older version. Still broad-shouldered. Still powerful. But his eyes are different. They're cold. Distant. The older Do-yun asks the doctor how long she has. The doctor says, maybe a week. The damage to her mana core is too severe. It's been deteriorating for years. Ever since the Frost Gate. Ever since she pushed herself past her limit to save him. Ever since he let her come with him into a trap he knew was coming. The older Do-yun's jaw tightens. He asks if there's anything they can do. The doctor shakes his head. If they had treated her sooner, maybe. If she hadn't burned so much of herself in that frozen canyon, maybe. But Do-yun was too busy, too focused on hunting the Demon Lord. Too proud to admit she needed more than a healing potion and a few days of rest. He thought she'd bounce back. He thought she was stronger than this. He was wrong. The Do-yun watching from the doorway feels his chest constrict. The older version of himself turns and sees him. Their eyes meet, and the older Do-yun speaks. His voice is flat, dead. He says this is what happens when you think you can do everything alone. This is the price of your pride. The scene shatters. The hospital room dissolves into silver mist. Do-yun is on his knees. His hands are shaking. The mist swirls around him and reforms. Now he's standing in a throne room. It's massive. Black stone walls stretch up into darkness. And on the throne sits another version of himself. This one wears a crown of melted demon bone. His eyes are black pits. His hands are stained red up to the elbows. Around him are chained figures. Hunters. Humans. Demons. All kneeling. All broken. The crowned Do-yun looks down at him and smiles. He says this is the other path, the one where he stops pretending to be humble. The one where he uses his 10,000 times strength to take what he wants. No more hiding. No more pretending to be F-rank. Just power. Absolute and unquestioned. The crowned Do-yun gestures to the kneeling figures. He says they all resisted at first. They all thought they could stop him. But stats don't lie. 10,000 times anything he wants. And no one can touch him. Not the association. Not the Demon Lord. Not anyone. He asks the real Do-yun why he keeps holding back. Why he keeps pretending he needs allies. Why he lets people like Ha-eun get hurt when he could just rule everything and protect them by force. The real Do-yun stares at the blood on his counterpart's hands. He thinks about Jae-won's advice in the training facility. About accepting help. About not carrying everything alone. He thinks about Ku staying behind to document the truth. About Jiwoo building the dampener without asking for anything in return. About Seo-jin sending a medical gate the moment Ha-eun collapsed. He thinks about Ha-eun herself. The way she smiled when she told him to win fast. The way she trusted him. Not because he was strong, but because he was him. Do-yun looks the tyrant version of himself in the eye. He says that path is a lie. Power without trust is just a cage with a view. He refuses it. The crowned Do-yun's smile fades. The throne room cracks. Black stone splinters. The kneeling figures dissolve into light. The tyrant opens his mouth to speak, but no sound comes out. Then the whole world goes white. Do-yun is floating in the void again, but this time something is different. A presence fills the space around him, ancient, vast, not hostile, just old. Older than the system, older than the gates, older than anything Do-yun has ever felt. A voice speaks. It doesn't use words exactly, meaning just arrives in his head, fully formed. The voice says he has been tested. The first trial measured his ability to face the consequences of his pride. The second trial measured his ability to refuse corruption. Both trials he passed, but because he was willing to learn. The voice says that strength without humility is just destruction waiting to happen. The builders of the gate learned that lesson the hard way. Their civilization fell because their greatest champions could not accept help, could not admit weakness, could not grow beyond their own legends. The voice says Do-yun is different. He carries great power, but he does not worship it. He protects others, but he does not seek to rule them, and so the gate deems him worthy. A sphere of light materializes in front of him. It's small, maybe the size of a marble, but the power inside it is staggering. Pure essence. Mana in its rawest form. Unshaped, unbound, limited only by the will of the one who wields it. The voice says this is the reward. Use it wisely. Do-yun reaches out and takes the sphere. It sinks into his palm. He feels it settle somewhere deep in his chest. Not in his mana core, somewhere else. Somewhere the system can't see. The void fades, the silver mist retreats, and Do-yun is standing on the hillside again. The stone gate behind him crumbles to dust, its purpose fulfilled, its champion chosen. He stands there for a long moment. The morning sun is climbing over the mountains. Birds are singing. The world is still turning. Do-yun pulls out his phone and calls Ji-woo. He tells her he got it. She asks what it was like. He says he'll explain when he gets back. But his voice is different, quieter, less cocky. Ji-woo notices but doesn't push. She just says the healers have an update on Ha-eun. She's stable, waking up, and she's asking for him. Do-yun pockets the phone. He takes a breath of cold mountain air. Then he moves. 10,000 times speed carries him back to Seoul in seconds. The clinic comes into view. Chae-won is waiting outside with his arms crossed. Koo is beside him, tablet still recording. They both look up when Do-yun appears. Jae-won asks if he found what he was looking for. Do-yun nods. He says he found more than that. He found a reminder. Then he walks past them and into the clinic. Ha-eun is sitting up in bed. The yellow ribbon is still in her hair, but it's not frozen anymore. Her color is back. Her eyes are tired but bright. She smiles when she sees him and asks if he won. Do-yun stops in the doorway. He looks at her, really looks. He thinks about the hospital room in the trial. The version of Ha-eun who wasted away because he was too proud to get her help. He thinks about the yellow ribbon faded and thin. He thinks about the silence after the machine stopped beeping. Then he crosses the room and sits beside her bed. He tells her he won. But he also says he's sorry. For dragging her into the frost gate, for letting her push herself past her limit, for being so focused on the fight that he forgot what he was fighting for. Ha-eun reaches out and takes his hand. She says she knew what she was doing. She chose to follow him. She chose to burn her mana to break the curse, and she'd do it again. Do-yun shakes his head. He says he doesn't want her to do it again. He wants her safe. Ha-eun squeezes his hand. He tells him that's sweet. But she's a healer. Protecting people is what she does. And protecting him is what she chooses. He can't take that away from her. Do-yun sits with that for a moment. Then he nods. He says, okay, but from now on, they do this together. No more solo charges. No more hiding his limits. No more pretending he doesn't need help. Ha-eun raises an eyebrow and asks if this is the same Do-yun who lied about a strength charm 2 weeks ago. Do-yun laughs. A real laugh. He says the trial gate beat some sense into him. Literally. She asks what happened in there. He tells her. Everything. The hospital room. The throne room. The voice. The pure essence now sitting somewhere behind his ribs. Ha-eun listens without interrupting. When he's done, she's quiet for a moment. Then she says the gate showed him the truth. He was always strong enough. He just needed to be brave enough to let people in. Do-yun looks at their joined hands. He says he's working on it. Ji-woo appears in the doorway with a tablet in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. She says that's very touching, but they have work to do. The pure essence needs to be integrated into the dampener. and they've got less than 48 hours before the world gate opens. Do-yun stands up. He gives Ha-eun's hand one last squeeze. Then he follows Ji-woo to the workshop. The pure essence is still humming in his chest, waiting to be used. Somewhere far away, Kang Malgum sits on his throne of shadow and bone. He felt the trial gate open. He felt it close. And he knows Do-yun walked out changed. The demon lord's smile thins. The boy is growing. But growth comes with attachments, and attachments are weaknesses waiting to be exploited. He gestures to a shadow in the corner. A figure steps forward. It's Tae-min, the S-rank team leader who went missing before the red gate. His eyes are solid black now. His mana signature is twisted. Demon turned. Kang Malgum tells him to prepare. The final trap is ready. And this time, Ha-eun won't survive it. Ji-woo's workshop is a mess of wires and glowing runes. The dampener sits in the middle of her workbench. It hums with a low vibration that rattles the coffee mugs. She picks it up with 2 fingers like it's a live grenade. Her glasses reflect 17 rune slots arranged in a spiral. All 17 are glowing. Ji-woo says the prototype's ready. Our girl doesn't sleep for 36 hours straight. She rewrites the mana flow sequence 4 times. She burns out 2 power converters and 1 soldering iron. And now the dampener V0.3 sits in her palm with a 90-second duration. Do-yun leans against the doorframe with his arms crossed. He asks if it'll work. Ji-woo pushes her glasses up her nose and says it'll work once. Then the runes overheat, and the whole thing needs a 10-minute cooldown. But 90 seconds is enough. Do-yun nods. He reaches toward the bracelet, and Ji-woo slaps his hand away. She says he's not touching it until she runs one more diagnostic. He grins and calls her a tyrant. She doesn't deny it. Ha-eun is resting in the clinic bed down the hall. Her color is better. Her yellow ribbon is tied fresh in her hair. She watches Ji-woo run her final scans through the open doorway. Chae-won is in the corner doing slow stretches with his gray hand. The cracks haven't spread since the dampener test. Koo is at the small table with the backup tablet propped against a water bottle. He's still typing his report into Ji-woo's news-linked encryption. The whole crew is crammed into this underground clinic. It smells like antiseptic and burnt mana. And nobody's complaining. Ji-woo runs her last diagnostic. Green lights across the board. She hands the bracelet to Do-yun and says it's his now. Do-yun takes it. The metal is warm. The runes pulse faintly against his wrist. He slides it on and feels the dampener click into place. It doesn't activate yet. It's waiting for his command. But he feels its weight. Not the physical weight. The weight of what it represents. This little bracelet is the one thing that can put him on even ground with the Demon Lord. 90 seconds at a time. He looks at Ji-woo and asks about the pure essence. She pulls up a new schematic on her tablet. Holographic lines spin in the air between them. She says the essence can be integrated directly into the dampener's core. It won't extend the duration. It'll replace the duration entirely. Instead of 90 seconds, the dampener will run as long as Do-yun feeds it mana. No cooldown. No overheat. No limit except his own stamina. He can feel it sitting there like a second heartbeat, waiting to be used. Ji-woo asks if he's sure he wants to integrate it. Once it's in the dampener, it's permanent. She can't extract it. She can't reverse it. And Do-yun will lose the essence forever. He doesn't hesitate. He tells her to do it. Ha-eun calls out from the bed and asks if he's really sure. Do-yun turns to look at her. She's propped up on pillows with a healing potion drip still in her arm. Her eyes are tired but steady. She's asking him the question he's been avoiding since he walked out of that trial gate. Is he sure he wants to give up the purest power he's ever held? Do-yun walks over to her bed and sits on the edge. He says the trial gate showed him 2 futures. One where he died proud and alone. One where he became a tyrant. Neither future had her in it, and neither future was worth living. So yeah, he's sure. She squeezes once and lets go. Then she tells Ji-woo to do it. Ji-woo waves Do-yun over to the workbench. He holds out his wrist with the dampener. She positions a small extraction tool over his chest. It's a silver needle connected to a mana conduit. She tells him this might feel weird. The needle touches his sternum, and the pure essence surges. It doesn't fight the extraction. It flows willingly. It pours out of Do-yun's chest like liquid starlight. It streams down the silver conduit. It hits the dampener's central rune. And the whole bracelet lights up. Every rune ignites at once. The glow is blinding. The hum becomes a roar. The clinic lights flicker. Ha-eun shields her eyes. Chae-won pushes off the wall and watches. Koo's tablet screen glitches for a solid 3 seconds. Then it stops. The light fades. The humming settles into a steady pulse. The dampener looks exactly the same. But Do-yun feels the difference. It's alive now. It's connected to his mana core like it was always there. He flexes his wrist, and the runes ripple in response.
Ji-woo asks if it worked.
Do-yun activates the dampener. A sphere expands from his wrist, 50 meters in every direction.
It passes through walls like they're not there.
Inside the sphere, everything changes. The weight of Do-yun's 10,000 times stats fades.
He's still strong, but he's not infinite anymore.
He's just a hunter. A really good hunter. But human. Chaewon steps into the sphere and immediately feels his skill mimicry shut down. His gray hand stops pulsing. The black veins go still.
He flexes his fingers and says it's quiet.
Do-yun asks what's quiet. Chaewon says the Demon Lord's voice. It's gone.
For the first time in months, the connection is completely severed.
Koo watches from the edge of the sphere. He's holding his tablet and recording everything. He says this changes everything. Ji-woo is already typing on her second tablet.
She says they need a location.
An abandoned S-class gate. Something big enough to trap the Demon Lord. Something they can seal from the inside.
Koo pulls up a map on his screen.
He scrolls through gate records. Closed gates, cleared gates, collapsed gates. And then he finds it. Gate 47.
An S-class gate that opened 3 years ago in the Taebaek Mountains.
It was cleared by a team of 12 S-rank hunters.
But the gate never fully collapsed.
It just went dormant. The association sealed it and marked it off-limits.
Koo says the gate's internal structure is still intact.
Cavernous chambers. Multiple levels.
And most importantly,
a sealing mechanism built into the entrance.
Originally designed to contain monsters,
it was installed by the first response team.
if they can lure the Demon Lord inside and activate the seal,
They can trap him inside. And with the dampener, they can fight him on even ground.
Ji-woo pulls up the gate's schematics.
She overlays the dampener's 50-meter radius onto the chamber map. She finds the perfect spot.
The throne chamber.
A circular room 100 meters across, right in the center of the gate.
If Do-yun activates the dampener there,
The sphere covers the whole room. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. Just 2 hunters and 90 seconds of equalized stats. Chaewon looks at the map and asks what happens after 90 seconds.
if the pure essence integration worked,
The dampener won't shut off. It'll run until Do-yun drops, or until the Demon Lord is dead. Koo closes the tablet and stands up. He says there's one more thing they need. The Demon Lord won't walk into a sealed gate without a reason.
he needs bait.
He needs to believe he's walking into a trap he designed himself. He needs false intel delivered by someone he trusts.
Koo looks around the room.
He says he'll do it. Do-yun immediately says no. Koo holds up his hand. He says the Demon Lord controlled him once.
The Demon Lord's touch is still in his head.
It's faint now, dormant, but it's there.
If Koo approaches the Demon Lord
And acts like he's still under control, the Demon Lord will believe it. He'll accept Koo's intel as truth.
he'll walk right into the gate.
Do-yun says it's a suicide mission. Koo says he knows, but he's been carrying guilt since the safe house.
He let the Demon Lord use him to hurt his allies.
He led Mang Hyun-soo right to their doorstep, and Ha-eun almost died because of it.
Koo says this is how he makes it right.
He's not asking permission. He's telling them the plan. Ha-eun calls Koo's name softly. He turns to her.
He asks if he's sure.
Koo looks at her for a long moment. Then he nods. He says he's never been more sure of anything. Do-yun stares at the floor.
His fists are clenched.
He wants to argue. He wants to find another way. But he knows Koo is right. The Demon Lord won't trust anyone else.
And without false intel, the trap won't work.
Do-yun looks up and meets Koo's eyes. He says okay, but Koo better come back. Koo almost smiles. Almost.
He says he'll do his best.
Ha-eun pushes herself up higher in the bed. She reaches under her pillow and pulls out a small cloth pouch. It's tied with a blue thread. She holds it out to Do-yun. He asks what it is. She says it's a charm. A good luck charm.
Something her grandmother taught her to make.
She finished it while she was recovering. Do-yun takes the pouch. It's warm from being under her pillow.
He asks if she really believes in luck charms.
Ha-eun says she believes in him, but the charm doesn't hurt. Do-yun tucks it into his jacket pocket,
Right over his heart.
He says he'll bring it back. Ha-eun smiles and says he'd better. Chaewon clears his throat from the corner.
He asks if he gets a charm too.
Ha-eun laughs and says she only had enough thread for one. Chaewon says that's favoritism.
Do-yun grins and says, deal with it.
The moment of lightness doesn't last. Koo gathers his things. He tucks Ji-woo's backup tablet into his jacket,
Transfers all the gate schematics to Do-yun's phone.
He writes down the false intel he'll deliver. A detailed lie about Do-yun's plan.
A fake route.
A fake weakness. A fake window of vulnerability. Everything the Demon Lord wants to hear. Ji-woo encrypts the false intel file.
She adds a tracker that'll alert her if it's accessed.
She says the Demon Lord will probably scan it before opening. That's fine. The false intel is designed to pass inspection. Koo memorizes his cover story. He was released from prison by the association.
He's been tracking Do-yun independently.
He found evidence of a planned assault on the Demon Lord's forward base. He's bringing it directly to Kang Mal-gum as proof of his loyalty. Do-yun asks if the Demon Lord will buy it. Koo says the Demon Lord believes in his own control. He thinks anyone he touches stays touched forever. He won't question Koo's loyalty. He'll question the intel. But the intel will check out because Ji-woo built it that way. It just won't lead anywhere real. Chae-won steps forward.
He pulls off his glove and shows his gray hand.
The cracks are dark. The veins are black. He says he can confirm Koo's story. He still has the Demon Lord's mark. He can send a signal. Tell the Demon Lord that Koo is genuine. It'll cost him. Every time he uses the connection, the cracks spread a little further. But it's worth it. Do-yun asks how much further they'll spread.
Chae-won says it doesn't matter.
If they don't stop the Demon Lord now, he's dead anyway. Do-yun stares at Chae-won's hand. Then he nods. He says they're all in. No one's holding back. Ha-hoon watches from the bed. Her eyes are wet, but she's not crying. She says she's proud of them. All of them. Even Jae-won. Jae-won says that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to him. He sounds like he means it. Do-yun turns to Ji-woo and asks for the final prep. She pulls up a timeline on her tablet. Koo leaves in 1 hour. He'll travel to the Demon Lord's territory alone. He'll deliver the false intel. He'll report back if he can. If he can't, the tracker in his tablet will alert Ji-woo when the intel is accessed. That's their signal. The Demon Lord has taken the bait. The trap is set. Do-yun and Jae-won will head to Gate 47 in the Taebaek Mountains. They'll activate the sealing mechanism. They'll wait in the throne chamber. And when the Demon Lord walks in, they'll spring the trap. 90 seconds of the old dampener, now unlimited with the pure essence. Do-yun looks at the bracelet on his wrist. The runes are glowing steady. He flexes his hand. He's ready. The hour passes too fast. Koo stands at the clinic door. He's wearing a borrowed jacket and carrying the backup tablet. His face is bruised but determined. Do-yun walks him to the exit. They stop at the door. Koo says he never thought he'd fight alongside an F-rank hunter. Do-yun says he never thought he'd trust an inspector. Koo almost laughs. He says the world is full of surprises. Then he turns and walks out into the Seoul night. The door closes behind him, and the clinic falls silent. Do-yun stands there for a long moment, staring at the door. Ha-hoon calls his name. He turns. She's still in bed but sitting up straighter now. She says he'll come back. Do-yun asks how she knows. She says because Koo Min-suk is the most stubborn man she's ever met. And that includes Do-yun. Do-yun cracks a small smile. He says that's a high bar. Ha-hoon says she knows. Ji-woo's tablet pings. Everyone freezes. She checks the screen. Her face goes pale. She says the Demon Lord just sent a message. Through an open channel. 1 sentence. It says, "Tell Koo he's welcome to try." Do-yun's blood runs cold. The Demon Lord knows. He knows about Koo. He knows about the trap. He's been waiting. Ha-hoon grips her blanket with white knuckles. Chae-won stares at the tablet. Ji-woo's hands are shaking, and somewhere in the darkness of the demon realm, Kang Mal-gum smiles. The Demon Lord's message still hangs in the air like smoke. Do-yun stares at Ji-woo's tablet until his eyes burn. Our boy knows one thing for sure now. They're walking into a trap. But the Demon Lord made a mistake. He told them he was waiting. That means he's somewhere specific. And a specific location can be found. Ji-woo's fingers fly across her keyboard before anyone speaks. She's already running a trace on the open channel the message came through. Her screen fills with cascading data streams. Chae-won stands near the wall with his arms crossed. His gray hand is tucked against his ribs. He hasn't spoken since the message arrived. Koo is gone. Probably already in enemy territory by now. And the Demon Lord basically sent them a welcome card. Ha-hoon shifts on the clinic bed. She pulls her blanket tighter around her shoulders. Her eyes haven't left Do-yun's face. She's watching him the way she always does. Like she's waiting for him to do something reckless. Ji-woo slams her palm on the desk. She says she found something. The signal didn't come from the Demon Lord's main territory. It came through a relay. A relay located in an old subway station under Yongsan. The station was sealed after a gate collapse 20 years ago. Someone down there is still broadcasting. Do-yun asks who. Jiwoo says the relay signature doesn't match demonic mana. It matches something older, something that predates the gate system entirely. She pulls up a schematic of the old station. Deep tunnels, flooded sections, and one chamber that's been modified recently. Electricity draw, heating signatures. Someone's been living down there. Chaewon steps forward. He asks if it's an ally or another trap. Jiwoo says there's only one way to find out. Do-yun is already reaching for his jacket. He tells Jiwoo to keep monitoring Ku's tracker and to ping him if anything changes. Ha-hoon grabs his sleeve. She doesn't say, "Don't go." She just holds the fabric. Do-yun puts his hand over hers. He says he'll be careful. She says he's a terrible liar, but she lets go. Chaewon volunteers to come with him. Do-yun shakes his head. He says he needs Chaewon here protecting the clinic. If the Demon Lord sends another wave, someone has to hold the line. Chaewon doesn't like it, but he nods. Jiwoo sends the coordinates to Do-yun's phone. The old Yongsan hub, 7 kilometers from the clinic. Do-yun pulls his hood up. He takes one last look at Ha-hoon. Then he's gone. The city blurs past him at 10,000 times normal speed. 7 kilometers takes less than a heartbeat. He stops at the edge of a collapsed overpass. Below him, a rusted stairway leads down into darkness. The entrance is half buried under rubble. Graffiti covers the surviving concrete. Old warning signs. Radiation symbols. Gate quarantine markers. Do-yun descends the stairs one at a time. He doesn't use his speed down here. Something about this place feels sacred. Like a tomb. Or a temple. The air gets colder the deeper he goes. Water drips from cracks in the ceiling. His footsteps echo off tile walls. Old subway maps still hang behind shattered glass. The tunnels branch in 3 directions. Jiwoo's signal says go left. The left tunnel slopes downward. The water on the floor rises to his ankles, then his knees, then his waist. He pushes through a submerged section for maybe 50 meters and emerges into a chamber that takes his breath away. The ceiling is 30 feet high. Massive stone pillars carved with runes hold it up. The runes are flowing with faint silver light. This isn't a subway station. This was built long before Seoul had trains. A circular platform sits in the center of the chamber. On it stands a figure, 7 feet tall, broad shoulders, skin the color of rust and iron. Horns curl back from a heavy brow. But the eyes are what stop Do-yun. They're not red like a demon's. They're silver. And they look tired. The figure speaks without turning around. He says he's been expecting a visitor. Do-yun asks if he's the one who relayed the Demon Lord's message. The figure finally turns. He says he relays everything Kang Mal-gum sends. He has no choice. But he also relocates the relay points to places hunters can find them. Do-yun's eyes narrow. He asks why a demon would help hunters. The figure laughs. It's a dry sound, like stones grinding together. He says he's not a demon. He's a general, or he was, before Kang Mal-gum took his dimension, before the Demon Lord conquered his people, before he was forced to serve. His name is Gorthan, and he wants Kang Mal-gum dead. He asks how he knows this isn't another trap. Gorthan gestures around the chamber. He says if it were a trap, Do-yun would already be dead. The pillars are suppression arrays, ancient ones. They nullify all mana inside this chamber, including the Demon Lord's connection. Gorthan unbuttons the collar of his armor. Beneath it, a black gem is embedded in his throat, pulses with sickly light. He says the collar forces him to obey. But down here, the signal can't reach. Down here, he can speak freely for the first time in centuries. Do-yun takes a step closer. He asks what Gorthan wants. Gorthan's silver eyes harden. He says he wants his people freed, his tribe. 37 demons who refuse to bow to Kang Mal-gum. They're being held in a camp 3 levels below the Demon Lord's throne. The collar lets Kang Mal-gum torture them whenever Gorthan disobeys. If the collar is destroyed, Gorthan says he'll fight. He'll give Do-yun everything he knows, every weakness, every secret passage, every flaw in the Demon Lord's defenses. Do-yun crosses his arms. He says that's a big promise from someone wearing a slave collar. Gorthan's jaw tightens. He says words are cheap, so he'll prove his worth another way. He raises one massive hand and points at Do-yun. He challenges our boy to a fight. Right here, right now, inside the suppression field where neither of them has magic. Do-yun raises an eyebrow. He asks if Gorthan really wants to do this. Gorthan says he needs to know if the Phantom is worth following. He says, all right, but don't blame him for what happens next. Gorthan charges first. 7 feet of rust-red muscle and fury. His fist comes down like a hammer. Do-yun sidesteps it by a hair. The stone platform cracks where Gorthan's fist lands. Debris sprays across the chamber. Do-yun circles left. His movements are calm, almost lazy. Gorthan swings again. A horizontal strike meant to take Do-yun's head off. Do-yun ducks under it. He taps Gorthan's ribs as he passes. Not hard enough to break anything, just a reminder. I could have. Gorthan growls and spins. His backhand catches Do-yun's shoulder. The impact sends our boy skidding 3 meters back. His boots leave grooves in the stone. He grins. He says Gorthan hits harder than he expected. Gorthan says he hasn't even started. They clash again. Gorthan's size gives him reach and power. But Do-yun's footwork is cleaner. He weaves between strikes like water through rocks. One punch slips past Gorthan's guard. It connects with his jaw. The big general staggers. His silver eyes widen. He says Do-yun's holding back. Even without mana. Even without the stat duplication. Do-yun says he doesn't need the glitch to win. Gorthan laughs. He says that's exactly what he wanted to hear. He lowers his fists. The fight is over. Do-yun asks if he passed the test. Gorthan kneels. One knee on the cracked stone. He says the Phantom is everything the rumors claimed. A warrior who fights with skill, not just power. Someone who can face Kang Malgum and survive. Do-yun tells him to get up. He's not looking for followers. He's looking for allies. Gorthan rises. He says, allies then. And he starts talking. The words pour out of him like water from a broken dam. Kang Malgum's nullification field. The ability that can cancel any power in his presence. Even Do-yun's 10,000 times stats. Everyone thinks it's unstoppable. But Gorthan knows the truth. The field drains Kang Malgum every time he activates it. For 5 seconds after it deactivates, his own defenses drop to almost nothing. His body has to reset. His mana pathways have to realign. 5 seconds, maybe less, but it's a window. Do-yun's eyes sharpen. He says he's never seen that in any report. Gorthan says nobody has. Kang Malgum only uses the field when he's surrounded by his elite guard. So nobody ever sees the aftermath. Gorthan saw it once. During a rebellion 60 years ago, Kang Malgum nullified a dozen rebel generals at once. And for 3 seconds after, he was vulnerable. One rebel got close, almost drove a blade into the demon lord's heart. Almost. Kang Malgum recovered just in time. He killed the rebel with his bare hands. And then he executed every general who witnessed it. Except Gorthan. He kept Gorthan alive, put the collar on him, made him his personal enforcer. Because dead generals can't suffer. Do-yun absorbs all of this in silence. He paces the edge of the platform, running scenarios in his head. A 5-second window. That's what they have to work with. He asks if Gorthan knows where the world gate is being built. Gorthan nods. He pulls something from inside his armor. A folded piece of treated hide. It's a map, hand-drawn in ink made from crushed mana stones. It shows the Demon Lord's dimension, every level, every gate, every guard post, every hidden passage. The world gate is marked in red. At the bottom of the deepest chasm, the Abyss Throne. Do-yun stares at the map. He says this is everything they need. Gorthan says there's a price. His tribe, the 37 demons in the camp. Do-yun promises he'll free them. He gives his word. When they seal the world gate, when Kang Malgum falls, he'll make sure Gorthan's people walk free. Gorthan's silver eyes glisten. He says he's waited 300 years to hear those words. He reaches up and touches the black gem in his throat. He says the collar will kill him if the Demon Lord suspects betrayal, but he'll hold on long enough to see Kang Malgum bleed. Do-yun folds the map and tucks it into his jacket. Right beside Ha-un's charm. He tells Gorthan to stay alive. Gorthan says he'll try. Do-yun turns to leave, then stops. He asks if Gorthan knows about the message. The one Kang Malgum just sent. Gorthan's face darkens. He says the Demon Lord is playing with them. He's always been a sadist. He wants Do-yun to know the trap is set. He wants him to walk into it anyway. Because breaking a defiant enemy is sweeter than killing a clueless one. Do-yun says that's a mistake. Gorthan asks why. Do-yun says because now they know 2 things. The Demon Lord is arrogant, and his nullification field has a cooldown he can't control. 2 weaknesses, 2 cracks in the armor. Our boy smiles. It's not a warm smile. It's the smile of someone who's just found the path to victory. The false intel goes out exactly as Ku planned. Jiwoo's backup tablet broadcasts a ghost trail leading south. Kang Malgum's scouts bite on it within the hour. Now Ku is somewhere inside the Demon Lord's territory. Nobody hears from him again. Jiwoo's screen lights up with a single alert. The tracker embedded in his tablet goes dark. Not jammed. Not scrambled. Just gone. She doesn't say what everyone's thinking. They all know what it means. Koo Min-suk bought them time with his life. Maybe a couple of hours. Maybe less. Not nearly enough. Kang Mal-gum steps through the bleeding rift like he's been invited. The chamber inside Gate 47 isn't fully armed. Half the rune traps still spark without charge. The dampener on Do-yun's wrist glows a steady green. Diagnostics clear. Ready. Ha-eun stands 3 steps behind him. Her staff is lit with a golden shield she hasn't dropped since Koo's tracker went dark. Chaewon's gray hand twitches at the edge of the room, his borrowed demon fire simmering. Jiwoo's voice is a single, tight syllable in Do-yun's earpiece. Now. The Demon Lord's nullification field rolls ahead of him like a tide. Every skill inside the chamber gutters. Chaewon's flame dies in his palm. The rune traps go dead. Ha-eun's shield flickers and thins, a sputtering candle. But Do-yun doesn't buckle. The field washes over his 10,000 times body and doesn't stick. It's not a spell he's casting. It's what he is. A permanent multiplication of every cell, every tendon, every heartbeat. Kang Mal-gum tilts his head. Curious. He says he wanted to see the broken code for himself. Then he doesn't aim at Do-yun. 3 black spears form in the air, one from the left, one from the right, one descending in a perfect vertical arc. They all vector toward the healer, the one person in the room with no combat skill active. The Demon Lord knows where to break a man. Do-yun moves. 10,000 times speed turns his body into a smear of motion. He catches the first spear with his bare hand, crushes it into splinters. Second, he redirects with a kick that sends it skittering into the wall. But the third is already falling, and he's not in position. He can't reach it. Ha-eun doesn't scream. She shoves him. Hard. Her failing shield blooms into a second golden hemisphere that snaps around Do-yun, and not around her. It's a move she's done 100 times in training. Always protecting him, never herself. The spear punches through her chest below the ribs. The sound is wet and small. She drops. The shield around Do-yun shatters on contact. He catches her before the stone. Her blood soaks through his jacket warm. The charm she gave him, the one beside his heart, presses against her palm. Her eyes find his. Still her, still warm. Strength. From heart. Her fingers go slack. The yellow ribbon in her hair unties and drifts. Gone. Do-yun doesn't move. The world bleeds into white noise. Kang Mal-gum says something. A joke, maybe. The words don't reach him, because something inside Noh Do-yun breaks. Not the system, not the glitch, him. He lays her down with a gentleness that doesn't belong to a man about to commit murder. Then his thumb finds the dampener's trigger. He slams it. The sphere erupts. 50 meters of roaring equalization. Every demon's blood magic gutters instantly and dies. Kang Mal-gum's own nullification field shreds like wet paper. Inside this zone, there are no gods. No null fields. No 10,000 times multipliers. The weight that's always sat in Do-yun's muscles. The 4-digit strength. The infinite reflex. The glitch that turned him into a phantom peels away. His body remembers what it is. A hunter. Human. Nothing more. Across the stone, the Demon Lord feels it too. The power that's thrummed in his veins for 3 centuries evaporates. His black lightning arcs and fizzles. The air around his horns stops bending. For the first time in his existence, Kang Mal-gum is just flesh and bone and bad intentions. His eyes go wide. Not awe, not respect. The animal certainty of a predator that's just become prey. Do-yun stands. No speed skill, no teleport, just a body that refuses to recognize limits. He walks forward. Mal-gum lunges. Even without magic, he's fast. A millennia-old demon with claws that can shred steel. He rakes for Do-yun's throat. Do-yun slips inside the arc. A simple pivot drilled into him during hundreds of dungeon runs before he ever touched the glitch. The claws miss by a finger's width. Do-yun's fist connects with the demon's jaw. Bone cracks. Not 10,000 times anything, just a man who's been fighting monsters since he was 16. The Demon Lord staggers. Tries to summon a portal, a reflex, and nothing happens. The dampener's hum is absolute. No shortcuts. No borrowed power. Just the meat. He swings wildly. Do-yun catches the wrist, twists, snaps the elbow sideways with a knee. Mal-gum screams. It's a sound no one has ever heard before. Not regal, not terrifying, just pain. Do-yun isn't finished. The fury isn't hot. It's cold and precise and utterly silent. He remembers Ha-un's last word. He remembers Ku's tracker going dark. He remembers Gorthan's collar ticking down 300 years of servitude. Every punch is a name. Every strike is a debt collected. He grabs Malgum's left horn and pulls. The demon scrabbles at his arms. But Do-yun's grip is trained, not multiplied. And his will is the only engine that matters right now. The horn snaps at the base with a wet crunch. Black ichor sprays across Do-yun's face. He doesn't blink. He drives the broken horn into the demon's side. Once, twice, 3 times, not deep enough to kill instantly, but deep enough to make it hurt. Malgum slides down the stone, gasping, clawing at his chest. The invincible demon lord is leaking dark fluid onto the floor. Do-yun plants a knee on his sternum, looks him in the eye. You wanted an even fight. His voice is flat. Here it is. He brings the horn up, grips it like a dagger, and drives it through the black gem still pulsing at Malgum's throat. The collar that Gorthan wore a lifetime ago. The gem splinters. The demon's eyes bulge. His last tether, his failsafe, his immortality, cracks apart with a sound like 1,000 tiny bells shattering. Kong Malgum's body does not turn to ash. No final explosive magic. He simply stops moving. The millennia-old tyrant dies choking on his own blood, beaten to the floor by a man who, for 5 minutes, had no power at all. The chamber rumbles. The world gate anchor is still pulsing, a pillar of fused black bone in the chamber's heart, sending its signal to tear a permanent door between realms. Without Malgum, it's already destabilizing, but it won't stop on its own. Do-yun stands. He reaches for the dampener's trigger on his wrist. One press. The sphere collapses. The oppressive equalization recedes, and 10,000 times everything rushes back. Not a gradual build, a sudden flood of strength, speed, perception that makes the air itself hum. His body remembers what it is. The phantom, whole again. He crosses the distance in a smear of motion. No technique needed, just a fist. His knuckles connect with the anchor pillar. The obsidian screams, fractures spiderwebbing from the point of impact. He hits it again. Chamber quakes. The rift in the sky above the mountain begins to knit shut, a bleeding wound closing stitch by stitch. He swings a 3rd time. The pillar explodes. The signal dies. The world gate curls in on itself, silent, absolute. The doomsday that was supposed to devour soul evaporates into a long morning sunrise. Stone rains from the ceiling. Chaewon limps into view, his gray hand dark and dormant now. The borrowed power bled out the moment the dampener activated. He'd spent the fight bleeding on the perimeter, holding off the last of the demon elite with a